anthropology in this attempt, and it worked for me. So I am glad that most of you must be having anthropology as optional here. It's a good choice. It's a great subject, or more particularly a short subject, and there's a lot of scope to score if you prepare properly. So we'll keep this discussion limited to anthropology. We'll see what small things you can do to extract more marks from anthropology. So I scored 293 in anthropology this year. After a bit, we'll have a more of an interactive session where you can ask me very specific doubts on how to increase marks or whatever doubts that you may be having. But to begin with, let me summarize what all I did for anthropology, because this is the first time I was writing with anthropology, and I wanted to make sure that I was not repeating any of the mistakes I had done earlier with my geography optional. So the first thing I did was strictly stick to syllabus and previous year's question. So I prepared notes on all the syllabus topics, and these notes were very crisp, never more than 1 or 2 A4 size sheets per topic. And I generally prepared them by referring to the standard textbooks and any other sources that were available, but mostly standard textbooks. My objective was to understand a topic properly and have a one-page notes on that, so that if any question comes out of that, I should be able to answer. So in order to understand the topic properly, I refer to standard textbooks, I refer to YouTube videos and any other material available. But I made sure after going through all of that, I understood the topic. See, if you do not understand the concepts and topics in an optional subject, you won't be able to answer the questions. Even anthropology, if you look at the last 2 years, the questions have become slightly more analytical compared to earlier when the questions were more direct. So understanding the topic is very important. And second is how to decide how much to study, as in how should the width and depth of the coverage of a topic should be. For this, I always had previous year's questions on the site. So topic wise previous year's questions, and I prepared my notes and I studied only as per those previous year's questions. So let's say there's a topic on classical evolutionism or cognitive theories. So I first looked at how much deep are they asking questions. So and how analytical are the questions. I tried to grasp that, and then I opened my textbook and then I read the topic, and I read it to the point where I was ready to summarize it in few points. And let's say, so I had different methods of making notes for different topics. So for example, if it's a theories topic, I would have an introduction, I would have a conclusion, I would always summarize the theory into 4 or 5 basic postulates. Anything beyond 4 or 5 basic postulate means you have not really understood the theory, and you cannot even replicate it in the actual exam. So why bother to have more than 4 or 5 postulates? Any theory never have more than 4 or 5 postulates. After postulates, then I wrote down 1 or 2 works of the scholars, very specific works with scholar names that I can quote. And for every theory, I included contemporary relevance, whether they asked or I have not asked. I always included contemporary relevance. For example, I was going through a topper copy of Mr. Maurya Bharadwaj from, I think, 2020 or 19, I don't remember. So when I was going through his answer copies, there was a question on symbolic anthropology. So in the conclusion, he mentioned, if we see, we have practices such as Jallikattu today which have become controversial. So symbolic anthropology helps us analyze these issues, because these are symbols in the society, especially for instance the Jallikattu. So that is why we need to look at these practices from a symbolic anthropology point of view, so that we can understand them better and regulate them better. So this is such a nice point to quote, because he is connecting very static theory to what is happening today and what we are seeing in the newspapers today. Now that is called as contemporary relevance. You can relate to contemporary events only when you have understood the concept well. So in most of my answers, theories or otherwise, I try to bring in some contemporary aspect. This is one thing. And secondly, being smart about using paper 1 examples in paper 2, paper 2 examples in paper 1. This also reduces the burden of collecting examples, and you can just keep switching. And another thing that helped me was having pre-made introductions and conclusions for all the syllabus topic. So I had a document where it had 3 columns. The first column was syllabus topic name, for example, classic evolutionism or Paleolithic period, whatever, the left column. The second column was introduction. The third column was conclusion. So for every syllabus topic of paper 1 and paper 2, I had these ready. And whenever you're studying, let's say you're revising some topic, it's easy to think about a good conclusion and a good introduction. You don't have to like look around or anything. Just think, in the conclusion, maybe how can I relate it to contemporary events? Or in introduction, can I quote somebody and introduce this topic? So the point is, it's easy to do this conclusion introduction part when you're preparing rather than in the exam on spot. So when you have introductions and conclusions ready, the time you take for an answer reduces, and you already have like very good punch conclusions. So even if your body is not so good, maybe looking at the conclusion, the person might feel that whoever is checking that you understood the topic and you can relate it to the contemporary world. So this is something that really helped me. I made all these conclusions and introductions beforehand, and I kept mugging them up. So whenever I would write a mock test or so, I try to ensure that I'm incorporating these. And next, I also made several diagrams. See, these diagrams do not have to be like very complicated diagrams, very simple diagrams, flow charts, etc. You can make them only if you're conscious about making them. So let's say you're studying a topic. You think about, okay, how can I put this topic in diagrammatic form? So that conscious thought has to be there. So that can be done, and I refer to topper copies extensively. So whenever I found something diagrammatic in any topper copy, I immediately took it, and I was hell bent on using it. If a question were to come on that topic, then I must use the diagram. So that's how the approach should be. So if you look at all this, one thing becomes clear, that you have to write to get marks. You have to be very ruthless about how can I get that extra mark. It doesn't matter like how deep your knowledge is or how wide your knowledge is. What matters is, are you or are you not able to get that extra mark out of each question? So approach every mains with that focus, GS or optional, how to get that extra mark. And it is these small things that help you increase your marks. So this was my overall strategy. And secondly, I also practiced a lot of tests for anthropology as well as general studies. I wrote sectional tests, full length tests over a period of time until a point where I was comfortable writing answers. So in the actual exam, I was on an autopilot mode because I had practiced to that extent that I had no difficulty writing answers. It really didn't matter how difficult the questions or what questions they were asking. I was able to write a decent answer irrespective of how difficult the question was. So this came after a lot of practice. Initially, because anthropology was new to me, I was very reluctant to write answers or write full length tests. But somehow my friends pushed me to go and appear for the full sectional tests or full length tests, and slowly my scores began to improve. And I learned how to write better by looking at others' copies, by looking at toppers' copies. So in and all, like prepare in keeping in mind how to get marks. It's not about the content, it's not about your depth of knowledge, it's about how well you can write or present what little you know. And secondly, how well you can practice. So practice as much as possible and take the suggestions given by the evaluators seriously and work on every suggestion. For instance, so in general studies papers, I used to have this problem in all the tests, mock tests that I appeared. I tended to leave a question because time was not sufficient for me. So I wanted to fill that gap. There was a constant suggestion that I was getting, do not leave any answers, do not leave any answers. So just to fill that gap, I had written 5 or 6 more tests to push myself to finish the paper. So I'm just giving an example. If there's any suggestion that you think makes sense and you think that you should do it, then please practice more to implement that suggestion. So it is through practice that you learn how to write well and how to improve your answers. And always have topper copies ready. Copy everything from them. Like if you like their diagrams, take them. If you like their conclusions, take them. If you like their examples, take them. That's a very smart way of preparing. So more or less, this is what I did for anthropology. So if you have any specific doubts, then I think that would be more useful than me going on and on about what I did. So you can ask.
Current affairs మీరు మంత్లీ కంపైలేషన్స్ అట్లా వద్దు అని చెప్పారు, అంటే ఓన్లీ న్యూస్ పేపర్స్ టాపిక్స్ రిలేట్ చేసుకుంటూ చదవండి అని చెప్పారు. అంటే ఏదైనా మిస్ అవుతూ ఉంటుందా ఫైనల్గా ఎగ్జామ్?
So you have to learn to pick important topics. And how do you know which topics are important? See, 2 ways. One is look at the previous year's questions. Look at the kind of current affairs that UPSC tends to focus on. And secondly, see if an issue is getting repeated again and again and again. Like G20 was always in the news. Ukraine conflict was always in the news. So make sure you're not missing them. So yes, it may happen that you're missing 1 or 2 topics, but look at the bigger picture. You have cut down monthlies from your preparation, which is huge, like huge amount of trash. So instead, you have just a specified number of current affairs topics which you have prepared your notes on and which you can revise again and again. And you will use them, trust me, if you revise properly, across the papers in the form of examples or in the form of case studies, in the form of introductions, in the form of conclusions. This will happen only if you keep your current affairs list short, and these should be high probable topics, and revise them multiple times so that you can use more efficiently. Like you'll extract maximum out of those few topics. Ethics. So, so like for any other subject, even for ethics, I stuck to making notes syllabus wise. So for every syllabus point, I had very short notes. In these notes, I had introduction, I had conclusion. I made sure, see, I was hell bent on putting a box in my ethics answer. So I did not know what that box would be, but I wanted to put a box right below the introduction. So that's why I prepared some diagrams. I copied some diagrams from topper copies. So for every syllabus topic of ethics, I had some diagram or the other. So something as simple as, see, if there's a question on governance, I used to write, this is governance. Right, this is good governance. This is ethical governance. So this is where we should progress. This is a very simple diagram, no? The idea is you have to be very, sure about using some diagram. So I would write an introduction and then I would immediately put a box here, like immediately. And then I'll come up with something to write in the box. And all these diagrams I didn't make up in the exam hall. See, in the exam hall, your brain is almost switched off. You're in some sort of a race that you have to finish the paper. So all these diagrams should be prepared beforehand. So you have, likewise, you can have diagrams for attitude, aptitude, code of conduct, work culture, everything. If you just put little effort into it, you can make beautiful and simple diagrams for all the ethics topics. So this I had introduction, I had a diagram, I had a conclusion, I had lots of examples for all the topics. And what it did with the examples was, I tried to keep them diverse, like some from history, some from mythology, like Ravana, Duryodhana, and some from contemporary examples like Elon Musk or Infosys founder and others. And also I had like 20 names of civil servants who had done good stuff and what they did. very, very crisply. Like your example cannot be more than 1 or 2 sentences. You won't have time to write anything more than that. So be very like crisp, like Armstrong Palme for People's Road. So small examples like that. So I had 20 examples of civil servants. I think 5 or 6 of mythological personalities, 10 of historical personalities, and 6 or 7 on contemporary people like Waterman, Sundarlal Bahuguna, and etc. So I had those limited examples, but very powerful examples and diverse in nature, and I used them wherever I wanted. Instead of having, see, sometimes yes, you can have very specific examples, but it's also important to have a chunk of examples ready in your hand so that you can mold them and use them wherever you want. So the People's Road example, you can use it for ethical governance, you can use it for perseverance, you can use it for people's participation, you can use it for ethical governance, and lots of such things. So have limited examples, but know like how can I extract the maximum out of every examples by putting it in multiple places. So that should be the approach. Because I've seen many people, and even I in the earlier attempts used to accumulate lot of examples. That's a very inefficient way to do things. Have limited examples and like think about ways to maximize output from those examples. And practice. Ethics is all about practice, especially this year's paper. It is very, very lengthy. So make sure you're practicing a lot so that you get a hang of how to write theory, you get a hang of how to write case studies, and use topper copies when practicing.
My question is regarding essays. If you observe this from last 3 to 4 years, they are more tend towards philosophy. So what's your approach to this? How do you do it?
It is true that essays are becoming more philosophical, but no matter how the essay is, you have to write an essay like an administrator is writing an essay. So just because that is philosophical, the question, don't make your entire essay philosophical. So try to open up the topic. By opening up, I mean think about the topic from different dimensions: social dimensions, individual dimensions, economic dimensions, political dimensions, geopolitical, cultural dimensions. So this is the brainstorming work that you do in the first 15 minutes. Think about all the dimensions. This is one thing. So if you cannot open up a essay topic, you won't be able to score marks. Second thing, whenever you make a point in an essay, you're trying to put forth a point, immediately substantiate it with a good example. And the examples in essay, they should be slightly more elaborate than the examples that we write in general studies papers. So like think about examples, and these examples, again, you do not need so many examples. Just have like 7 or 8 good examples of personalities, different personalities. In fact, the examples that you prepare for ethics can be used there as well, but you just have to elaborate them slightly. And whenever you're making a point, substantiate with example. And the third thing is, please maintain flow between the paragraphs or dimensions. See, it's easy to link individual dimension with social dimensions by saying every person is a sum of 5 people around, or by saying things like man is a social animal, therefore any individual level things will have consequences on the society. Or link economic and political by saying anything economic will eventually fall into politics. So those connecting lines. So when I was practicing essays, this was a constant suggestion that I got from the evaluators, that my dimensions were not linked or they were not flowing organically. So what I did was I downloaded the topper copies of whoever scored highest in essay, and I tried to see how they were linking the dimensions. So from their papers, I picked up these connecting words, like 10 connecting sentences, and I used them in my essay as well. So second was that. And third is have pre-made introductions and conclusions. So keep them generic so that you can link them to different topics. For example, I had a story or introduction on Buddha. The story was there lived a prince in the foothills of Himalayas. He was born to a very wealthy king, and he had all the riches that he wanted. And yet he decided that he was not happy or not satisfied with all the material wealth and political power. something was lacking in him, so because of which he decided to leave all that behind and find himself or discover himself. So this was the story that I had beforehand. Now there was a question in essay. The question was, a ship is not meant to be in harbor, it's meant to sail out in the sea. So this was a story that I had, and this is the question that I got. So I wanted to mold that story to this question. So I started by saying, there lived a prince in the foothills of Himalayas. He had everything that he wanted. He was son of a very wealthy king, material wealth, political power, blah blah. But still he realized that that is not what life is about, just sitting and enjoying all the comforts that you already have. So he felt that he needed to go out or sail out into the actual world and discover himself. So, and then I said, so that's how he left everything behind and he started his journey out into the, so he left his harbor and he went out into the sea. So let us find out if he really found himself. So I wrote my essay by looking at different dimensions, and in the conclusion I brought that back by saying that in the story that we started with, it was none other than Lord Buddha himself. It was only when he set out of his harbor, a safe harbor, and he took risks and he discovered himself through various processes that he found enlightenment. And this process not only helped him to find enlightenment, but also give the world the message of his message. So that's how I closed. So my idea is, have some good stories in your hand. And these stories should be versatile so that you can use them in different areas. And where can you find these stories? Just go and pick them up from Topper Copies. So most of the stories that I prepared, I had like 6 or 7 stories. Very basic stories that we may have already heard. Like, remember, there's a Jain story on elephant and people like tie their eyes and then, so that I had. So these are like small stories that I picked up from Topper Copies and I had them ready. And when I was practicing my mock tests, I was practicing how to link that particular story to the essay given. It's always possible if you're like little conscious about it and creative about it. So this reduces your burden to a large extent if you prepare everything in advance. So on the day of the exam, it's only execution. There is no, you can't sit and think about introduction there. You can, but it's inefficient. So if you already have some introduction beforehand, there you will sit and think about, okay, how can I remold this? Or which of the 7 stories will fit this properly? And for both the essays, I could use the stories that I prepared beforehand. And these stories I picked up from Topper Copies that I was coming across. So this was my broad strategy for essay.
Excuse me. You practice GS in example writing from a beginner to A.
Yeah. Right. So this is my 5th attempt. So I wrote a lot of answers. And but the problem is I was always doing the same mistakes. So it was only in this attempt that I made several changes to the answer writing. So if I have to like summarize some of the things for answer writing, so first of all, make sure your presentation is very neat. So I was going through the top 20 copies last year and I found something common. They were very neat. Their handwriting was not beautiful or something. They were neat in their presentation. The things were symmetric, like whatever they're writing. All these small things matter because whoever is checking should feel like giving you answers, giving you marks. So neatness of presentation is important. And even for GS topics, I had introductions and conclusions ready for all the syllabus topics. And I wrote all my points in bullet format. And each point is always substantiated with a fact or an example. Like I never left any points unsubstantiated. And my sentences were very crisp. So never write a point which exceeds more than 2 sentences. You're doing nobody a favor by doing that because the other person won't read it. See, whatever you're writing, whatever you're trying to communicate should hit the other person in the first sentence itself. And the second sentence, you can just maybe substantiate with an example. And use lots of diagrams, flow charts. Just be innovative. This is what you should be doing between prelims and mains, not accumulating content or doing the basic things again and again. It's these value addition things which will fetch you marks. So every extra mark, if you can get, I was hell bent on doing this, that I should get 1 mark extra in every answer that I'm going to write this year. So I made all this, whatever I'm talking about, I put all this in each of my answers. So that, and I did not leave any space in the, if they gave me 3 papers, I finished the 3 papers. So some things that you can do to, like, it may sound silly to finish all the papers, but maybe just, see, at that point, it was my 5th attempt. I was desperate to make sure I will not leave any stone unturned. So I made sure, okay, if UPSC is giving me space to write, I will not leave any of it. So if this is a paper, this is the margin. Sometimes I used to like put a box and then put a diagram. This is one way to use the space more properly. And in some other forms, if this is the paper, I would like write in this format. So this way, this space, like, you will still use all the 2 pages that they've given, and it will also look better. It cuts the monotony of just writing things, because everybody writes like this. And whenever I'm drawing a diagram, I always put it in a box. I labeled it small, like, figure, what is that about? So you have to consciously do each of these things in every single answer, and it can be done provided you practice a lot for it. It won't come overnight, or it won't come in maybe 1, 2 or 3 tests that you practice initially, but stick with it. Don't get demotivated by whatever feedback you may be getting or whatever marks you may be getting. Just focus on, okay, these are the things that I want to execute or practice through my mock tests. So let me see if I'm able to do it or not. With that approach, just keep practicing. So look at topper copies. Never stop looking at topper copies. It's a very smart way to prepare. Pick up everything from their copies. And like these presentations also, like one of my friends who already cleared, like he always wrote his answers in this format. And it helped him fill pages and not leave any pages. So I picked it up from him and then I started writing it. So, and always have like nice conclusions. If you put little thought into conclusions, right when you're revising whatever syllabus topics you're revising, just give some thought to the conclusion and write that conclusion on the side. And if any question comes on that topic, question can be anything, your introduction and conclusions can still be the same. You will address the demand in the body of the answer. So like write nice conclusions. This I think is a major factor which helped me score better this time.
There are some which from my perspective, you cannot prepare for that. For example, she's made for view on gas system, and there was another inside question.
There was right.
So, what is your strategy?
So I left those 2 questions that you talked about. You always have a choice to pick questions, right? And that is why it's important to do the syllabus, the basics thoroughly. And I think there was also a question on Mesolithic or Paleolithic, I don't remember, but it was slightly twisted. It's not very direct. So what I did was, I wrote what I know. And then I, even with a lot of confidence, see, in that particular question that I picked, I knew 2 questions very well. This 3rd question, I think something about Mesolithic period or anything, some analytical question, but I only prepared static part on Mesolithic or whatever Paleolithic. So what I did was, I wrote with full confidence whatever I knew. I put my diagrams, I put my whatever, I filled 2 pages. In the 3rd page, I came to the demand of the question. I tried to link in whatever way that I knew, or I try to quote some scholars, because the actual demand I only knew 1 or 2 points. I did not know anything beyond 1 or 2 points, but I can't leave the question. No, it's a competitive exam. I'm sure nobody else knows, or maybe 1, 2 people know, but I can't leave the question. So I decided I'll write what I know, and then I will use those 1, 2 points a little creatively and still fill the pages. So don't chase those questions, which are very like bouncer questions and stuff. Try to handle them like with a little bit of creativity in the exam itself, but do your basics thoroughly.
In the time gap between prelims and mains, how much time do you devote
I would say give at least 50% of your time to optional and ethics. These two are extremely scoring. So, but the thing is, GS is so wide, right? So we keep reading, and then, but on the other hand, ethics and optional are very specific. So you can draw a boundary to these topics, but you cannot draw a boundary to GS3 or GS2, or at least it's difficult to draw a boundary. So don't invest too much time there. With whatever current affairs you may be doing, or with whatever prelims preparations you may be doing, you will be able to answer GS 1, 2, 3 to a certain extent. So, and essay. So essay, GS 1, 2, 3. These papers 50% of your time, but the rest 50% should be dedicated to optional and ethics, which will fetch you like really good marks and they'll spike your score. So this can be the practice.
Did you take GS means test series?
So see, the thing about test series is it really doesn't matter where you take it. You can just pick up, you can close your eyes and pick up any test series, okay, provided they're willing to give you checked copies in time and you know what you're trying. See, all these things that I talked about, I evolved them with the help of my friends by looking at topper copies, etc. So we made a list of 10 to 20 things that we need to do in our answers. Now, why do we need test series? To see if we are able to do those things. So you already know what you want to do in the test series. So it really doesn't matter what test series you take. Whichever you take them in time, write answers, see if you're able to implement what you want to implement and also work on their suggestions because you could have missed on something and keep revising them. So it really doesn't matter which one you take.
How you went in GS3 preparation and paper? Because this time around it was difficult to get
So again, GS3 also same thing. Syllabus wise, I had my notes prepared well in hand. And secondly, since I practiced a lot, even questions such as James Webb Telescope or cellulose, I can write to some extent, like write a decent answer. And like I said, James Webb Telescope was one of the topics that I picked as part of my current affairs. Why? Because it was on the front page of the newspaper and there was a lot of hype around when they introduced or like when it sent some images or something. In fact, US President said something about that event. He said how great an achievement it is and how it gives us humility to go back into time and look at the beginning of everything. So he said a quote. So I understood, okay, this is an important development for science and technology. It's very likely to come up in the exam. So in fact, on that day, Hindu had given a table distinguishing Hubble telescope and James Webb telescope. I picked that up. I picked up the US President's quote. I went and reproduced the same thing in the actual exam. I concluded with the President's quote. So the idea is GS3 is very current oriented. So pick your current affairs properly and practice a lot. And whenever you find that the question is very, like the cellulose question you must have gone through, right? What do we know? We know nothing about it. We just know that, okay, decomposition is happening. So I explained about the process of decomposition, the basic process of decomposition. And that's it. I did not know anything more than that. And then I generated a new side heading by saying, why should we study processes such as this? And then I tried to link it to how we are focusing on waste management or waste treatment and how most of these treatments or managements are not eco-friendly. But if we can understand the natural process of decomposition as seen in the cellulose and others, then maybe we can, take some of those and incorporate in our technologies. So this is the relevance part. They did not ask me the relevance, but I knew nobody would anyway write anything for this. So anything extra that I write which is relevant to the question will fetch me marks. So whenever you get a bouncer question, just keep this in mind. Nobody is writing that. So you cannot leave that. That's where you score marks. And second, if you write something relevant, be little innovative at that moment. You'll be rewarded well because it's all about relative, right? They will compare your answer with whoever he's been checking for the last 1 hour or so. Nobody has written anything. You, on the other hand, have managed to write something and then you went a step ahead and tried to give its relevance, whether asked or not. So you'll be rewarded. So this approach can be followed.
Ma'am, in the recent time you have shifted from geography to anthropology. So how did you make sure that within 1 year you are going to get the master or what did you do? How was it?
So since I had geography earlier and I made all the mistakes possibly one can possibly do with an optional. So I was like doing a lot of mistakes. So I made sure I was not repeating any of these mistakes. So the first thing I did was make my own notes. I used standard textbooks and made my own notes. And this is also because I was at home. I was studying from Narayanpet district, which is quite far away from the city, and I did not want to go to Delhi at all. So I had no other option but to sit and study at home. So I ordered all the basic textbooks and I prepared notes, first thing. And the second thing, right from the word go, I focused on how to get marks. So it's not about me trying to master anthropology subject at all. I still have not mastered. I've only focused on how to extract marks out of this subject. So for example, in this, I feel physical anthropology and archaeology are extremely scoring and they're dead basic basic and static stuff. So I focused a lot on these two topics and I answered all the questions that came in. So like by focusing on areas which give you marks, by doing only those things which will fetch you marks. Like I said, for example, the theories. I did not want to have a holistic, comprehensive understanding of theory. I wanted to understand the theory to such an extent that I can summarize it in 4 points and maybe write a good answer when it comes to the exam. So I would say marks-oriented approach is what changed.
What motivated you, ma'am, in this long journey? Like at every time when you got down, which motivated you to get up again to fight the battle?
True, like I was very demotivated at times. I was underconfident. I was constantly questioning myself that if I can ever make it to that list, forget rank 3. I questioned my career choices. All of this happened, which I think are very common for anybody who has gone past one attempt. So multiple things that helped me. First is my parents and my friends, definitely. Like they always believed in me. Even though when I had no faith in myself, they kept saying that, you're good at this, you can do this. They kept saying that. And the second thing is, I always progressed in some way or the other from every attempt to attempt. Some progress I was seeing. I was seeing that because I was learning from the mistakes that I was making. So this small confidence I had that I won't make the same mistakes again. So I have the ability to learn from mistakes. So this. And thirdly, planning aggressively. So like whenever something goes wrong, I always started fresh whenever something went wrong. And I made large plans. So I had monthly plans, weekly targets, daily targets. So I just focused on finishing my daily target and tried to think less about the bigger picture and what will happen in 1 year, will I clear it or not. And fourthly, like I tried to look at life beyond UPSC. Earlier, I was like really just into the exam and always in the books. But this time around, I studied only for like 7 or 8 hours, and then I started learning new things. Like I enrolled myself in badminton, I went to karate classes, I cooked in the evenings, I got a pet and started playing with the pet. So I try to look at life outside UPSC and get a sense of balance in life. That helped me be not so unhappy all the time. So it motivated me, it helped me focus better on the next day. So there's no one formula. You just have to understand that everybody is going through the same thing, and maybe learn about mental health, learn about emotional hygiene, and do small things which can get you out.
Concerning the dynamics of prelims, how we can accommodate ourselves in prelims?
Right. I think prelims will continue to be like this. It will only worsen as the years pass by. So there is no single formula. First is do your basics right. All your basic textbooks. For history, you have Bipin Chandra, I think 11th or 12th class NCERT. For ancient and medieval, you have Tamil Nadu textbook. For polity, you have Lakshmikant. For different subjects, you have the dead basic books. Do them really well, make notes out of them, very crisp notes, revise them again and again. And that is 30% of your preparation. The next 70% is your tests. You have to practice a lot. It is through these practice that you learn how to deal with such bouncer questions. So for every prelims, I used to practice 2 test series, which is nearly 60 to 70 tests before going to the actual prelims. So there is no shortcut to it. Prelims is donkey like hard work, and you have to do it. So, and you have to know it's you should put that hard work in practice, not trying to accumulate new things again and again. So do those papers, and I also had a thumb rule that every paper that I do for prelims, I should revise it thrice before going to the actual exam. So I had an extensive Excel sheet where I planned everything. When will I take this particular test? When will I revise it for the first time, for the second time? And the last time that I revised, I used to note down if there's anything that I still don't remember from that paper, or if there's anything that I feel should be revised right before the day of the exam, I used to write them in A4 size sheets. So in one day before the prelims, I just used to have like 10 or 12 A4 sheets with all this chota information written across from the test, and I used to revise that only. So the idea is practice. So through practice, you learn how to eliminate. You learn how to guess or make educated guesses. You know which is your golden figure, 85, 90, 83. What is your golden figure? You have to figure it out. So these things will help. This year, so please go with the approach of scoring marks. Anything, you should only be doing things that you know for sure will fetch you marks. Running behind the same static content will not fetch you marks. You already know the static whatever that you studied before. Just believe in that, and beyond do work beyond that. So what happens most of the time is we are always stuck at the stage of accumulating content or writing, preparing notes and all of this. So now that mains is just 3 months away, do only those things that fetch you marks, like preparing introductions and good conclusions, looking for diagrams for different topics, looking for good examples, right, and focusing on only those current affairs which you feel can come in the exam, like high probable stuff. Do not read every obscure topic that monthly magazines provide. And lastly and most importantly, practice more. You may write crappy answers in the beginning. You may not be able to finish the paper in the beginning, but that's all right. Just keep writing tests and learn from those tests and look at the topper copies. In short, do only those things which will fetch you those additional marks. Don't do the same mistakes and don't repeat the same static content.
Regarding answers, when you say that a lot of questions are depend on the
Can you ask?
current affairs questions, a lot of people say it will be coming from either newspaper or editorials. So how to approach that?
Right. Okay. So I actually did not make notes directly from the newspaper by reading from it. I read the newspaper and I tried to identify the important topics that were coming in the newspaper again and again. So these topics I made a note of in a book. And for these, after once I accumulated 7 or 8 topics, I sat down on one fine day and I made notes on this. So when I was making notes on these topics, I looked at all the sources that are available. I used to type something on the internet and I used to see what all I can make. And I always knew the kind of structure my current affair notes would have. What is this about? And how many dimensions can I write on this particular topic? So if there is a question, if there's a topic on G20, I noted it down on my book. And I would go on a Sunday or so, I would sit and make notes on this. When I was making notes on it, I would think about, okay, what is this G20? How many countries are there, and why is G20 relevant from economic perspective, from today cultural perspective, from geopolitics, from the perspective of environment, even that. And then come to the fact that India had its presidency, and then I would try to write some points on why India's presidency is so relevant and so important for us, and how India can utilize this to its best potential. So this is a question that I generated on my own, and then I looked up, okay, can I find some answers to this? And my answers to these were very crisp. For example, I remember I linked G20, India's G20 presidency relevance to cooperative federalism by saying that India is hosting meetings in 50 cities of the country. It's not just happening in Delhi, which shows that there is a kind of center state coordination in creating these meetings. So that's a point on cooperative federalism. And it's just small point, cooperative federalism, meetings in more than 50 cities. This is a point that I noted down. And culturally, significance of G20 for India, showcase of India's diversity of culture. For example, Adi Mahotsav Mela happened, or there was also a G20 lunch or something happened at that time. Just a small example, your point and a small example. So you have to think about, okay, in how many angles can I think about this current affair topics and make very crisp notes on it, and just revise, summarize it in one sentence and put it in my book. And secondly, for prelims, yes, from the newspaper itself, I picked up a lot of things. So if there's a species mentioned, I know species get asked regularly. Or if there's a national park mentioned, I used to write it down in the book. So my prelims current affairs book, yes, I wrote it down directly from Hindu and I revised it repeatedly.
In answer, in what ways can intro and conclusion can be in different ways? With intro and conclusion, in what ways can we make some creative or something?
Okay, so there are multiple ways to do this. For example, you can quote DPSPs in the conclusion, or you can quote UN conferences. You can quote some scholars. For example, there is a scholar called Joseph Stiglitz. He was, I think, a Nobel Prize winner. He said, like the Third World War is with the climate change. So he made some statement like that. I picked up that statement. And there was a question on cities and sustainable development of cities. So I used him in the conclusion. I said, like former Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz, he said that the war is with, the Third World War is going to be with climate change. If that is so, then the battleground is our cities. So we better focus on our cities. So he said only the first part, but I linked it to whatever question that came up. So if you have such generic, versatile statements, whenever you come across them, so where do you come across them? When you read newspaper. Like I used to read newspaper regularly in the morning, just over a cup of tea or something. If I find something really interesting, I would immediately write it in my book. And this particular Joseph Stiglitz thing, I used in GS1, I used in GS3, I also used in essay. In 3 entirely different contexts. So you pick up such statements. So DPSPs, these quotes. So for international relations, I decided no matter what the question is, my conclusion will be a quote given by Ministry of External Affairs, Mr. Jaishankar. So he gives very nice quotes. Some of them are specific, but some of them are very generic. Like you take those generic quotes and you mold them to your question. So his quotes I prepared like 8 or 9 quotes. So these kind of things you have to be, and some I lifted directly from topocopies. Like for example, that Jallikattu example I was giving earlier, I picked it up directly from Mr. Maurya Bharadwaj's paper and I used it for my symbolic anthropology. So things like that, like you can do a lot of things. And maybe for the introduction, like go beyond definitions. So everybody is defining now. What makes your answer stand out? Go like give that extra edge. So your introduction should be such that it will also secure you 1 mark. So if you write a generic introduction or basic definition, it won't fetch you mark. It may not fetch you mark. So maybe like put some fact there or use some report, things like that, or a constitutional article or a judgment, anything like that. So you can just think about, okay, how can I make sure I'm getting 1 mark for introduction and 1 mark for conclusion. What happens most time is we take them for granted. We write kuch bhi in the conclusion just to finish off the answer and run to the next question. So don't do that. Pay attention to them. If you pay attention to them, you'll find ways to generate good introductions and good conclusions. Thank you.
How do you remember and revise the static subjects and
There is no shortcut. You have to revise again and again and again. So I followed a method called active recall. Maybe you can read up a little bit about this method. And 2 things that I followed: active recall and spaced repetition. So spaced repetition is, whenever you study something, the retention it goes away with time. This is time. This is the retention you have in your head. So today I'm studying, and after 1 month, it's as good as nothing. So you have to interrupt this cycle. So how do you interrupt? You revise it here. So you make a new cycle. You interrupt here. You make a new cycle. So for me, so this is 1 week. So when I study something today, I'll mostly revise it tomorrow, or even if not, I'll revise it after a week, and then I'll revise it after 15 days. So this is by answering questions. So if I want to revise modern India, let's say I want to revise modern India, my static part for mains. So what I used to do is I used to collect questions, mains questions for modern India, let's say from previous year's questions or from any other source. I had a list of like, okay, 20 questions. This is my modern India syllabus. This is my 20 or 30 questions. I used to sit and brainstorm on them. So that means you're actively recalling. You're not passively reading your notes. So when you're actively recalling, you also think in the context of introduction or conclusion. You also learn how to answer as per the demand of the question. Even for prelims. So that is why tests are important. Tests are a mechanism for or a tool for active recall. So instead of sitting and reading the same thing, I used to write like 5 sectional tests for modern India and make sure I was revising everything. So I was forcing my brain to recollect things. Whatever it could recollect, I would write in that test. Whatever it could not, I would come back, sit and analyze and see what I forgot and then revise them later. So these 2 techniques. So this is why I had an Excel sheet. So everything I read or every test that I made, this is my revision schedule. Everything was put in the Excel sheet. Once. Timetable in the sense?
How would you plan
For 2024, like, see, one thing I learned from my so many years of struggle is you cannot emulate anybody else. You have to develop your own style. You have to develop your own strategy, your own timetable, everything. And you have to own it up completely. So see what is your pace of studying. See if you're comfortable with it, and accordingly prepare your timetable. And you have all the dates. So you have the date for prelims, you have the date for mains. So accordingly, split your entire time into month, like 3-month targets, monthly targets, weekly targets, and daily targets.
Was there any plan B? Because it's very
Yeah, when I started, I had no plan B. So when I graduated, I thought going to Delhi will be the end of my career problems. That I would, become an IAS officer if I go to Delhi. But clearly things did not turn out like that. And I did not have a plan B. And it made me very underconfident and insecure for a good amount of time. Because all my friends in their chosen fields were progressing while I was sitting back at home, isolating myself. So it did not. But eventually, like, it is through this process, I worked on my other hobbies or my interests. Like, I like to do yoga. So I thought maybe I can go ahead and do some masters in yoga, get certified and become a teacher. Or I could maybe start a food business because I was interested in food and entrepreneurship. So different things opened up, and also I got appointments from some of the central PSUs because I cleared mains and appeared for the interview. They called me for an interview. So based on that, I got them. So, and I also worked as a copy checker at a coaching institute. So small things to support myself here and there. Not even like to support myself, to just tell myself that I can do something. So I did not have a solid plan B, but I think plan B, C, D, E opened up as I went. So whatever I said now, until now, it was their copies that I looked at. So earlier I was not really looking at topper copies properly, or maybe even if I'm looking, I'm just like browsing through them. But this time around, I looked at topper copies to see how much can I extract from them. So all these are, it's just their great, like I'm grateful for them that they helped me with this. Right. So some of the things, see, again, every case study requires introduction and conclusion, and if you carefully go through the previous year's case studies, you will see that case studies are always thematic. There are some themes that get repeated. So for all these themes, I had introductions, conclusions. For example, gender justice is a very common theme, so I had like really good punchline introductions and conclusions for this prepared. I actually picked it up from I think 2021's AR1 copy, Miss Shruti Sharma, her copy. From her copy, I picked up these lines. This was one thing. And second, I cut down on the sentences that I was writing. I followed, again, a diagrammatic approach even for this. For example, so this year there were a lot of questions where they asked evaluate the options. So that means you have to write pros and you have to write cons. And there were 5 questions in each case study. If you keep on writing sentences, you won't be able to finish the paper. So what I did was, option 1, write whatever you want to write, and then pro, con, and I would just write upholds justice. If that process could be delaying, or I would write a participatory approach. Consensus difficult. So my point is, I summarized those pros and cons of my options in using keywords and with just words. I did not sit and write sentences. So this is one thing that I did. Introductions and conclusions and examples. Even in case studies, I use the examples that I prepared for ethics in general. Wherever possible, I put case studies. So I try to show by arrows. Sometimes, like whatever small diagrams that I picked up from top copies. And the conclusion I always used to write some philosophy or something that makes this feel like an ethics answer. So for example, Kant's philosophy, moral command, I would always write doing the right thing may not be the easiest thing, but as Kant said, it's our moral duty to follow the moral command, something like that. The point is, use some philosopher in the conclusion. So these things, and what you can do with case studies is open topper copies, look at the question of the case study, close the answer, and you answer that case study on your own, and now check how the topper has written. So that way you'll immediately know where you're lagging behind. So that approach I followed for. So I downloaded copies of AR1, AR2, AR3 up to AR10, and then I tried to like do case studies from there itself.
Regarding the graduation to the rank where we are approaching the final interview date at time, if the years are so long, will the marks reduce? Kind of, if we are not doing any permanent job or like doing part-time job for the basic needs, will it affect?
I do not think it affects that much because it didn't affect my score, I feel. But you have to be, see, personality test is about your personality, right? You're displaying your personality there. And you have to understand that you should not show off, or you should not try to give like, most best answers to the complex solutions. It's an entirely different game. So for me, I had like small thumb rules. So I have to be confident, I have to be cheerful, I have to be very honest and own up myself. I have to give balanced answers, I have to be very polite and humble. So these 5 things that I had actually written on my fingers that day and then went in. I only wanted to do this. I didn't want to give the best solution to the Ukraine conflict, which they asked. So I only gave a balanced answer. And the first question that was asked to me was, what have you been doing for the past 5 years or 4 years? And see, this question could easily have made me insecure, or I could have been on the defensive. But I remember, okay, I just have to be honest. So I told ma'am, I was making mistakes all this while and I was learning from my mistakes. And it took me a little long, that's why. And she was happy with the answer, because I was being honest. So that's the difference. Like, you have to own up yourself. Be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with your setbacks, with your, wherever you are. If you are that comfortable, they will also be comfortable. They won't judge you. So. Actually, my father is in the police department. So, chinnappa nunchi he used to motivate me towards the services. So, he used to come home and talk about what the district collector was doing or what the SP was doing. So, he never like directly told me, go study this. But he kept talking about this thing. So, civil services as a career option was always at the back of my mind. But like everybody, I prepared for IIT and I went to IIT. And in the final year, like I was just evaluating what options do I have. So I thought, okay, like civil services seems to be a good platform. You know, it's a good career. So I started preparing for that.
You mentioned in the previous option you were making a lot of mistakes. Here you had two choices. One is to rectify those mistakes or maybe some other one, which is going to be a bit risky because you have spent a lot of time in the previous option. So what made you to choose some other option on what basis? And why did you never thought of rectifying those mistakes in the previous option?
Right. Okay. So I wrote 3 mains with geography, and in those 3 mains, that is what I was trying to do: rectify the mistakes. But there came a point where it felt like maybe this was not my cup of tea. I gave my best. I was trying to learn from my mistakes, and I had put a lot of emotional investment into that paper as well. And when you do not score well, despite your sincere and right efforts, it can be very demotivating. So, and at that point, something happened. Like third attempt, I appeared for the interview but failed to clear it. So I was obviously very low. And then I went ahead and wrote prelims, and I could not clear prelims. And this was because of my CSAT. So it was an even that was the lowest I had in my life until then. So I thought, okay, I can't get any lower. Like this is the bottom. I hit the rock bottom. Now what will go bad? So I thought this is the right time to take a risky decision, which was to change my optional. And I changed my optional, and I got a very fresh start. Sometimes when you're like very long into the preparation, you become complacent and you become old. So that new optional gave me a fresh perspective, fresh start, and a bit of hope to go ahead. And that's why I took the decision.
What was the benchmark that you had before moving to some other option? Or what aspect did you choose?
Right. So since I took geography without any thought into it, just everybody was saying geography, so I went and took geography. This time I evaluated different options which I felt I could do well. So I had like 4 or 5 optionals. I looked at the length of the syllabus. I found anthropology to be the shortest. And secondly, I looked at the previous year's questions for some topics. For example, if there is classical evolutionism, what are the previous year's questions on that? And I try to see how direct are the questions. If the questions are more direct, you can answer them and get more marks. And thirdly, I looked at whether this subject will interest me or not. So, and I knew nothing in anthropology. I did not know the physical anthropology. I did not know archaeology. So everything was so fascinating for me. So in fact, when I had sociology, PSIR, anthro as a thing. Last 3 final stage, but I was very not at all sure about what to take. So you know the Ember and Ember book, right? So I picked up that book, and I within a span of 4 or 5 days, I just read the whole book. Just read the book to see what anthropology is about. And then I could actually read the book. It was very interesting. I did not read for the exam or anything. I just read that book to understand what anthropology is or anything. And it was written so well. And I got interested in the subject, and I did not even go and bother to read for PSI or anything. I was like, okay, this is going to be it. So that. So do not take CSAT lightly is my first tip. I graduated from an IIT and I failed in a CSAT once. So don't take it lightly. And secondly, don't be very rigid on I'll attempt only math questions or I'll attempt only comprehension questions, because 1 year comprehension are difficult, the next year math are difficult. So answer easy questions from all the 3 chunks, all the 3 parts. And thirdly, in logical reasoning or mathematics, there are certain types of questions which get repeated. So there are clock questions, calendar questions, averages, cube questions, permutation and combination problems. So identify these. There are like 8 or 9 topics. and I write down those topics and find how to solve this in a very easy way. The shortcuts, the formulas, everything. You go to YouTube and find out. And these three, if you do these three, you'll be able to score qualifying marks and pick up the easy questions. Don't get stuck on the difficult questions. All you need to get is 66 marks. So you pick up the easiest questions from the math and logical reasoning and answer just those questions. I refer to the standard textbooks. Like for every topic there is a standard textbook. No, there is Pnath, and then you have Upadhyay for theories. You have Nadeem Hasnain. You have, I think, D.K. Bhattacharya's one book on archaeology. Whatever. So what I did was, I did not read those textbooks from cover to cover. So I picked up a syllabus topic and then I went to that textbook and I read whatever there is about that syllabus topics. I came back and made my notes on that. So, and sometimes if I felt that that textbook does not have adequate content, I used to look for secondary sources like any material that is available on the internet. And Telugu Academy books, I use them extensively because they're written so simply. They have everything in tabular format. They have good diagrams in it. So that also I used. Right. One is the textbook. You read from the textbook, you'll understand. Next, if you do not understand, ask the teacher or discuss it with the friends. Go on to YouTube, go on to Wikipedia. Just make sure you're understanding the topic. Do anything that is needed, but at the end of the day, you must understand the topic decently enough and make your own notes out of it. So use whatever sources are available. Your focus should be on understanding it and making your notes.
Water, please.
So many aspirants are working hard to get into this, but only few of them are getting into the position. What exactly the UPSC demands from an aspirant, and what the mistakes that most of the aspirants are doing? It's a game of knowledge, or it's a game of something more than the.
Right. So it's definitely not a game of knowledge. And UPSC, I do not know what UPSC is demanding, but it's a competitive exam. So you have to make yourself stand out. So most aspirants, what happens, at least in my opinion, is they do not put an effort to stand out among others. So like I discussed so many small things. Your conscious effort to gain one extra mark in every paper will take you to top 10. So these things that are not focused, instead it's about reading too much, keeping on making notes, refining notes and going ahead and not practicing. So it's just these small things. Those who clear are not giants or like, super intelligent people at all. It's just they did these small things and try to stand out among other papers. So that's it.
So, I have one question. ఇప్పుడు ఎవరైతే 2024కి ప్రిపేర్ అవుతున్నారు, సో 2024 ప్రిపేర్ అయ్యే వాళ్ళకి ఎలాంటి స్కెడ్యూల్, ఎలాంటి టైం టేబుల్ ఉంటే బాగుంటుంది ఫర్ తెలుగు పీపుల్?
మీరు 3 months ముందు వరకు ప్రిలిమ్స్ గురించి అంత ఆలోచించిన అవసరం లేదు. ఆ 3 months ముందు వరకు ఫోకస్ ఆన్ మెయిన్స్. అండ్ మెయిన్స్లో కూడా బేసిక్ బుక్స్ చదివి నోట్స్ చేసుకున్న తర్వాత ఈ బేసిక్ నోట్స్ మీకు ప్రిలిమ్స్కి కూడా యూజ్ అవుతుంది. సో డూ యువర్ బేసిక్స్ రైట్ అండ్ దెన్ రైట్ అవే జంప్ ఇన్ టు ద సిలబస్ వైజ్ నోట్స్. సో ఆప్షనల్ అయినా జిఎస్ అయినా సరే సిలబస్ తీసుకోండి, దానికి ప్రకారంగా నోట్స్ చేసుకోండి. మీకు చదివే కంఫర్ట్తో, మీ పేస్తో ప్లాన్ చేసుకోండి. ఓకే, నాకు ఇన్ని మంత్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఇన్ని పేపర్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఆప్షనల్ ఉంది, నేను డేలో మధ్యాహ్నం ఆప్షనల్ చదువుతాను, మార్నింగ్ జనరల్ స్టడీస్ చదువుతాను, అండ్ ఈ పేపర్ కంప్లీట్ చేయడానికి నాకు ఇన్ని మంత్స్ కావాలి అని యూ హ్యావ్ టు ఎవాల్వ్ యువర్ ఓన్ ప్లాన్, యువర్ ఓన్ స్ట్రాటజీ. సో ఇట్లా ఉన్న టైంలో ట్రై టు ఫిట్ వాట్ ఎవర్ యువర్ పేస్ ఇస్. సో దీంతో యూ కెన్ ప్రిపేర్.
అంటే సీరియస్నెస్ ఒకటి, కన్సిస్టెన్సీ ఒకటి చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ రోల్ ప్లే చేస్తుంది. అంటే ముఖ్యంగా ఎవరైతే 2024 ప్రిపేర్ అవుదాం అనుకుంటున్నారో, ఈ పర్టికులర్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ ఫీల్డ్లోకి వస్తామో సీరియస్నెస్ అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఎందుకంటే కాంపిటీషన్ ఆ లెవెల్లో ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి వీ హ్యావ్ టు బి సూపర్ సీరియస్. ఎందుకంటే మన మీద పేరెంట్స్ నమ్మకం పెట్టుకుంటారు, కొందరు టీచర్స్ నమ్మకం పెట్టుకుంటారు, లేకపోతే మీరు చదువుతారు, మీరు ఎన్నో వదులుకొని వస్తారు. ఫస్ట్ థింగ్ ఈజ్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు బి వెరీ సీరియస్. నెంబర్ 2 ఏంటంటే కన్సిస్టెన్సీ, మొండి పట్టుదల. ఇలాంటి క్యారెక్టరిస్టిక్స్ ఫస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. మనము ఏ ఎడ్యుకేషనల్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అయినా ఏదైనా కాదు, ఈ రోజు నుంచి ఎలా చదివామన్నది ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఇప్పుడు తనే మనకి ఎగ్జాంపుల్. సో సూపర్ సీరియస్నెస్, కన్సిస్టెన్సీ. ఇంకా ఏం క్వశ్చన్స్ లేవనుకుంటా? ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయా ఇంకా?
What does it mean reading 2 minutes? So Lakshmikant, there are 1025 pages are there. So is it important with line by line, or how do you know like what to read and what not to read?
ఓకే, సో లక్ష్మీకాంత్ మనం మెయిన్లీ ప్రిలిమ్స్ కోసం చదువుతాం కదా, అండ్ ప్రిలిమ్స్లో మీరు అనలైజ్ చేస్తే ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్, మోస్ట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ పార్లమెంట్ మీద వస్తాయి, ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ మీద వస్తాయి, ఎస్పీస్ మీద వస్తాయి, అండ్ ఎమర్జెన్సీ ఈ ప్రావిజన్స్ అండ్ అమెండ్మెంట్స్ వీటి మీద. సో వీటిని గట్టిగా చదవండి మల్టిపుల్ టైమ్స్. ఇంకా కొన్ని ఉంటాయి లైక్ చిన్న చిన్న టాపిక్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ నాట్ సో ఇంపార్టెంట్, వాటిని ఒక గ్లాన్స్లో ఫినిష్ చేసేటట్టు. బట్ బై నాట్ రీడింగ్ టూ మచ్, ఐ మీన్ ఏదైనా సిలబస్ని పక్కన పెట్టి ఇంకా దాన్నే ఎండ్లాగా చదవడం. మంత్లీస్ ఉన్నాయి ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, చాలామంది ఏం చేస్తారు, అదే చదువుతుంటారు, దాన్నే రివైజ్ చేస్తారు, హైలైట్ చేస్తారు. ఇవన్నీ సరే, మీ ఫోకస్ సిలబస్ మీద ఉండాలి. సిలబస్కి ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్కి తగ్గట్టు మాత్రమే చదవాలి. మీరు ఏం చదువుతున్నా ఎట్ ద బ్యాక్ ఆఫ్ మీ మైండ్ ఏమని ఉండాలి, ఇది నాకు మార్క్స్ తెస్తుందా అని. తేకపోతే ఒక్క పారాగ్రాఫ్ కూడా చదవద్దు. ఎందుకు, మనం రీసెర్చ్ చేయడానికి లేము కదా. లైక్ రూత్లెస్, యూ హ్యావ్ టు బి వెరీ రూత్లెస్ విత్ వాట్ యూర్ స్టడీయింగ్.
She already told that you got many kind of valuable inputs from your friends and everything. So what are the kind of valuable inputs you got from this sir?
సో నేను సార్ని ఇంటర్వ్యూ ప్రిపరేషన్ అప్పుడు మెయిన్లీ కలిశాను 2020లో అండ్ దెన్ 2022లో కూడా. సో నాకు 2020లో ఆల్దో నా ఆప్షనల్ జాగ్రఫీ అయినా నేను ఇక్కడ ఇంటర్వ్యూ గైడెన్స్ తీసుకుని ఉండే. సో ఎవ్రీడే క్లాసెస్ పెడుతుండే సార్, ఆల్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ సెలెక్టెడ్ వాళ్ళతో ఒక జూమ్ మీటింగ్ పెట్టి హీ యూస్ టు గెట్ అస్ ఫెమిలియర్ విత్ ద ఐడియా ఆఫ్ టాకింగ్. సో ఆ రోజు జరిగిన న్యూస్ పేపర్స్ నుంచి చిన్న చిన్న క్వశ్చన్స్ అడుగుతుండే అండ్ వీ యూస్ టు టాక్. ఇది ఒకటి. అండ్ దాని తర్వాత వెన్ ఐ వాంటెడ్ టు చేంజ్ మై ఆప్షనల్, ఐ వాజ్ వెరీ అన్ష్యూర్, నాకు ఏం చేయాలో తెలియకుండే. అండ్ మోస్ట్ పీపుల్ ఆర్ లైక్ డోంట్ డూ ఇట్. సో నేను అప్పుడు సార్ దగ్గరకు వచ్చాను అండ్ ఐ టోల్డ్ దెమ్, దిస్ ఇస్ మై జర్నీ, దిస్ ఇస్ వాట్ ఐ వాంట్ టు డూ, షిఫ్ట్ టు ఆంథ్రో అని. And then he said, if that is what you feel, just go ahead with it. And he told me about like people he knew who were suffering with geography as well, but who could never, they couldn't do the risk of changing the option. So you're already there, you're willing to take that risk, go ahead and chepparu. And neeku em support kavalana, I'll check copies in time. So all the support he extended. And again, interview ki kuda, it was my first mains and first interview with anthropology. సో అగైన్ అన్ని టాపిక్స్కి ఇంటర్వ్యూ ఓరియంటెడ్గా చిన్న చిన్న వీడియోస్ చేస్తుండే సార్ జూమ్ మీటింగ్లో. సో నేను అవి కూడా అటెండ్ అవుతుండే. సో మోస్ట్లీ లైక్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీని కొంచెం కాంటెంపరీ ఆస్పెక్ట్లో అండర్స్టాండ్ చేసుకోవడానికి సార్ హెల్ప్.
మీకు ర్యాంక్ వచ్చినప్పుడు సార్ ర్యాంక్ వచ్చినట్టు ఫీల్ అయ్యింది.
Great to see a class full of students. So I would want this session to be more of an interactive session so that you can ask me questions and I can answer that for you. Firstly, let me tell, there is no stupid question. You can ask me any, there are no questions called silly questions. So you can ask me any question and I'll give you the answer for that. Okay. I want to know specifically from all of you that you are interested specifically in anthropology or the entire UPSC journey in general, because my optional is anthropology. As you might also know that I scored 325 in anthropology. So do you guys want to know the strategy for anthropology or GS in general? Both. Okay, so let me start with GS or anthropology then. Huh? Anthro, raise hands. Okay, so I would like to know the general background of all the students. Is anyone who's already completed coaching or all of you are new to this coaching? So everyone has decided the optional? Everyone is anthro optional? Okay, no changing of the optional midway, right? That's the worst thing you can do in the UPSC journey, let me tell you. With regard to anthro, I would say it's a safe optional, saying it is interesting. At the same time, it is very scoring. It's not an optional which I am hoping that the marks would not reduce in any time in the future, and it will give you returns. If you study the optional for a few months, then you are sure to get returns for this optional. Okay. So are all of you sure that you are not changing the optional midway? So have you all read the syllabus of Anthro? You are all comfortable with the syllabus, right? Okay. So I am assuming that you are taking classes from Vishnu sir for Anthro, right? I have taken test series from him, but I have known from the various students that he takes classes for the week and he has tests on Sundays. Is it right? Yes. So are those tests started? Yes. Are you all writing those tests? Yes. Today have you written? No, today we are. Okay. So how many of you are planning to bunk that test? Please raise your hand. Okay. So first thing I would say is never bunk these tests. Okay. Even if you are not prepared, just write it. Nobody else except for sir is going to read your answers. So that is the best way possibly you could do to complete the syllabus. I am assuming every day sir is going to pick certain topic, right, and he is going to explain you that topic. The only thing that you need to do is to go home, read his notes. If you think that the content which he has given is not sufficient for the exam, I am assuming most of the time that content is sufficient, but if you feel that you are not clear with a particular topic, pick up an additional source or read the actual material that Vishnu sir has, original material, read it from there, have that clarity and finish that topic on that day itself. Okay, and do this every day for the 6 days and come and write that test on Sunday, and that's it. Your almost 2 revisions of that particular topic are done. And whenever you have that the entire test after the sectional test or whatever, then your second round of revision is done. If you do this, by the end of the time he finishes his classes, which is about 3 to 4 months, you will be done with anthropology. In fact, I am assuming that if he starts his anthropology coaching from now on, this is July, right? How long is it going to take to complete? Okay, that's brilliant. By October, you can stop your preparation for anthropology. You don't have to look into it anymore. Okay, you can look into that subject only after prelims. That is more than enough, because you will already have had 2 revisions of particular subject, right? Then after prelims, if you join his test series or any test series, whichever you want, and write those test series, that is going to be more than enough. Okay. So firstly, do you want my book list for Anthro? Okay. So my base material, when I started my preparation, I did not have access to a lot of new sources which are coming up. Now I'll tell you I'll tell you my journey of Anthro. My score was 226, 96 and 126 in paper 1 and 2 in 2021. 2022 my score is 325. Okay, the scores are 178 and 147. So I think rather than saying how I studied, if I tell you what difference I made between those 2 attempts, you will understand what are the required things which are necessary to increase your score in Anthro. Okay. So in 2021 I was scared of answer writing. Okay, I have not written one single test. Just to convince myself, probably I have picked 1 or 2 previous question papers and I have written, that too at my own house, that too taking breaks in between. Okay, 1 hour used to get up, see my phone, keep it there, come back, take hand is paining, I'll come back after 1 hour. So all of that is not going to work. I would say that if possible, kindly join a proper test series. You will have 10 to 14 tests in all series and sit down and write all the tests. The biggest problem with test series, as told to me by sir, is that students write initial 1 or 4 tests, okay, maximum 5 tests, and they don't write the tests in the later half. Don't do that. Okay, write tests. First thing is write tests. Okay, now second, all of you are aware of the syllabus of anthropology, right? So there is one particular chapter in paper 1 which is anthropological theories. Okay, very utter boring, very boring. You will start feeling sleepy. You will be like, is this the subject we have chosen for optional? But let me tell you, every optional has theories in paper 1, so it is same for all the optionals. Is sir starting classes with anthropological theories? Very great to make you all sleepy, but it is very boring. But at the same time, it is extremely important to understand the other concepts of anthropology. The mistake I did in my first attempt was I didn't read anthropological theories. So that again is a very big blunder. You can't afford to skip that particular chapter because you'll have 2 or 3 questions from that 100%, there is no doubt. You will have at least one 10 marker, you will have one 20 marker and one 15 marker, and these questions are quite simple in nature. The thing about anthropological theories is, if you have a basic understanding of all these theories, right? So what does Marvin Harris has to say about cultural materialism, or what is diffusionism, or what is evolutionism? So if you understand what these people are actually trying to say, then these concepts, you don't have to mug up these concepts. That is the one thing you should not do, guys. Don't mug up any concepts in anthropology, try to understand them. Now you are going to use anthropological theories, and through the lens of these theories you are going to look at the entire syllabus of both the papers, right? So now you have read all the 10 theories which are there in anthropology paper 1. So for example, a question comes on any of the social institutions like marriage or family or kinship, you are going to look at them through the lens of these theories. Now for example, let us take an example how we are going to do this, okay? So for example, you have a lesson called marriage in paper 1, anthropological paper 1. Now you have a lot of thinkers. Now you have L.H. Lewis Henry Morgan, who has given you a scheme of how marriage in the society has evolved, and evolutionism also explains to you how marriage as a concept has evolved, okay? So you can include that in this, okay? Now again you will have example of functionalism, right? In that you have this guy, what is his name? I'm sorry, Melnovisky. Now Melnovisky says that all the cultural institutions that exist in the world are there to fulfill certain functions, right? So can you include that particular theory in your answer? Yeah, so this is how you are going to pick up all the theories and going to include it in your answers, okay? Let me tell you one thing, that one big difference between both the attempts is, in my first attempt, when I wrote anthro, I did not include even a single anthropologist's name in any of my answers, because I didn't read that theory section at all. In my second answer, I made sure that at least one anthropologist's name is definitely there in each of my answers. There are questions where there are 3-4 anthropologists' name as well, and I used to make sure that I put them in a box and underline it for the examiner, whoever is seeing, to understand that I have an understanding of the discipline in general, okay? This is what I have done. Now firstly, tricks to increase your score: use anthropologist's name. If possible, this is not something that is going to come in one day or two, but if you put in the required effort, you will be able to remember the names of their works also. For example, Melnovisky has Argonauts of Western Pacific, then Primitive Culture is one of the books. So you will have a lot of books, so you can remember their works also. If you remember, quote them in your answers also, okay? Try to answer it through the lens of anthropological theories. Okay, and let me tell you one thing, the division between both the papers that you have, and also that the division that you have in paper 1 of different chapters, is only for our understanding. Okay, anthropology is a subject in general, the entire subject, and there are no divisions in such. So no one stops you from using the concepts of one particular topic to be used in other topics. Okay, so be free to exchange the ideas between both the papers. You can bring in the concept of caste system, of village in general, tribal examples in paper 1. You can use anthropological theories in paper 2. Paper 2 is not started for all of you, but there are certain concepts called little tradition, great traditions. Okay, so little traditions are nothing but big festivals which you have, which have incorporated into the smaller societies, and big traditions are like smaller festivals which are there in local forest areas, have been taken up on a larger scale and have become like a national festivals. So if you know the concept of diffusionism, this is diffusionism, right? So this is how you can use the concepts of paper 1 and paper 2 in each other. Okay, that is one thing. So I would say anyone who is very slow in writing here. Okay, a lot of them. So for you guys, I would say please practice writing. Okay, unless you don't complete your papers, you are not clearing mains. Okay, I know of friends who have given 4 or 5 attempts, but they are not fast enough to complete the entire paper. They end up leaving 2-3 questions in each paper, and that is where they lose marks. Okay, so how much you sit down and write number of answers, write 3-hour tests, write 2 tests, do whatever it takes, but please complete the paper on time and do this practice very seriously. Okay, now for paper 1, I think that's it. You should answer all the questions, use the name of anthropologist. One way of you to understand what is going to fetch extra marks is to read toppers answer sheets. I'll give you a list of toppers whose answer sheets you can read. They are exceptionally well written and you can take inspiration from them and understand how they answer. And okay, that is something that I think all of you have to definitely do. So it is Lakshmi N. If possible, I will forward this. There is an 800 pages PDF of toppers answer sheets compiled into one PDF. I will forward it to sir, and maybe in case you have any groups, he'll forward it to you. Please keep it carefully and read those answers, the style of writing, how they are interlinking concepts and all. Then there is Sachin Gupta. Then there is Lakshmi Mittal. No, not Lakshmi Mittal, Ashima Goyal. Then there is Koya Sri Harsha. So I will just forward that PDF to sir, then you can read all their answers. So they are greatly written and you can take a lot of learning, a lot of examples, case studies, tribal examples if you have, you can note them down in your book. Also newspaper, I am assuming all of you are reading the newspaper. Anyone here planning to skip newspaper and go to YouTube for half an hour summary videos? Anyone who's doing that? Okay, so never skip the newspaper, guys. You can use YouTube or any other sources to complement your reading of the newspaper, but never skip the newspaper. Please read it. It is going to take time initially, maybe 2 hours or more than that, but eventually it will come down. And I think newspaper is something that you should read it till the time, I mean you should read it all the time. Newspaper is extremely important, but at least till the time you are preparing for the exam, please do read the newspaper, okay? And keep noting down the tribal examples. For example, you have the Manipur thing happening now, you can note that down. So day before yesterday there was one Hindu, I think last week or yesterday, I don't remember, on the religion UCC thing for the tribal people, the entire page, right? So that examples you can note down. So keep noting down these examples as and when they come, and you can quote them in the answers. Other than that, sir also sends snippets of the tribal examples and all, right? You can keep noting these examples down as well. For paper 2, I would say, any doubts in paper 1?
Ma'am, let's take an example of topic like cultural survival. It's given by Taylor.
Yeah.
So can we use the generalized examples like other than those examples
Yeah.
that are given by papers in paper?
In fact, that is going to give you more marks if you give general answers. I mean, the actual application of them in daily life, because very few of them are able to think in that direction. Unless you have a clarity on a particular topic, you cannot give examples from your own, right? So if you think in that way, it is going to definitely add marks. And you can, of course, you can go out of the box and give examples as far as it is connected to the actual concept. That is absolutely fine.
Ma'am, ma'am, in paper 1 we could see a lot of bouncer questions like, I mean, sir has explained as a topic of Shapiro, so it is easier for us now.
Yeah.
But for those people for which, I mean, it is not mentioned in the syllabus, so it is entirely new. So how to deal with such type of questions in paper 1?
Okay, so I will be honest, 2020 was the year when Natufian culture, Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, when all was asked. 2020 I did not write main, so I బతికిపోయాను అక్కడ నుంచి. 21లో మెయిన్స్ రాశాను. I didn't get such bouncer questions, all of them were quite simple in nature. The blunder was in me choosing the wrong questions. In 2021 what went wrong was, there are prehistoric cultures in paper 1, but 2021 for some reason had asked all European prehistoric cultures, and very few of us go and study European prehistoric. We study Indian prehistoric as part of paper 2, but no one, I mean, I'm sure some people must have studied, but I did not study, and I don't know why I picked up all questions relating to prehistoric cultures. So that was a mistake I did in 2021. So that is another lesson to be learned. Be very, very clear. Take initial 5 minutes to pick the right 3 questions that you are going to write. I hope you know the pattern of the optional paper. Anyone who does not know the pattern? Okay. So be very, very careful in picking the 3 questions that you are going to write in paper, in both the papers in your optional. Okay. And one more thing, this could probably be right or wrong, I am not sure, but I'll tell you what I did. I feel anthropological theories give more marks, is my or maybe I was very well prepared in my next attempt in anthropological theories that I gained very good marks. That could also be a reason. And one more thing is, in paper 2 I generally make sure that I don't pick questions which have a tendency to look like GS answers. For example, in paper 1 there is one of the topics called growth and development, demographic demographics of all nations, factors affecting fertility, fecundity of nations. Okay, so these are topics where how much ever you try, you cannot show your anthropological understanding that much, right? Like what are the factors of affecting fertility, like male son meta preference, and then you could be, you know, these are the common socio-ecological factors that influence. These are something that even a GS, someone who has not studied anthropology will also know. And how much ever we try it, our answers will end up looking like GS answers. So I used to make sure that unless these are the only questions which I know and there are no other questions, I don't pick these general questions. I used to try picking up questions where I can show my understanding of anthropology in a much better way, where I can give examples of anthropologists, or physical anthropology also, if I can highlight the studies of some people. Okay, use names of people who have done research in particular areas. So that is again going to fetch you a lot of marks. Any other doubts in paper 1? Anthropological? My basic material was brain tree, and then I added it with anthropology simplified. That's it, nothing specific. See, there is a general pattern of all the anthropological theories. See, for example, if you take diffusionism, right? Are you all done with diffusionism? Okay. So my notes, I'll tell you how it is made. The first thing is didn't write well. 2022, again I was lucky that such questions didn't come. To be very honest, if such questions come, even I don't know what I'll write. So I think I'm going to leave it. What else can we do? If you have an approximate idea of what that is related to, for example, if Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is asked, assuming I don't know what that is, but I know that it is linked to language, then I'm going to write a few lines on language and leave it. Okay, so I am someone who believes that I should not leave questions. But if a question on Natufian culture is asked, I have no idea of where it comes from, whether it is Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, whether it is Indian, foreign also I don't know. So I don't think I can do anything for such questions. And 2020 I am assuming was an unusual year, and let us hope it was an unusual year, because if such question come, then all of us are going to be in trouble. So even I do not have an answer of what I am going to do. I am just going to leave such questions. 2020 I would have also scored like 260, 270, I am sure, if I would have written. Any other questions? Paper 1? Okay. So paper 2. Okay. So for paper 2, the problem is how should we make it more anthropological in nature and not look like more GS in nature. So that is the biggest challenge of paper 2. But unfortunately we cannot do much, okay, other than using anthropologists' names. If possible, use the schools of anthropological thoughts. You can use schools. If possible, try to pick questions from tribal India, not specifically tribal India. Try to pick questions which don't look like GS. Like, there are questions on population, okay, such questions. Try to avoid them in general, like there are concepts called regionalism. Unless you don't have specific expert level knowledge on these topics, try to avoid them unless that is the only thing you know. Okay, if that is the only thing and the other questions are a complete bouncer, then there is no way we can help it, right? So you have to attempt those questions. Okay, and for tribal, I think biggest help can be use of case studies. Case studies, I think you have a lot of material from Sir Snippets, daily examples from newspaper. You can quote the case studies wherever it is required, and that is going to be more than enough. Okay. Other than that, I think tribal examples, other Indian examples, Indian village examples if it is there, or for example any particular person has done a study. For example, Andre Batel has done studies on some village which is there in notes. So you can quote these examples from these people. My idea of anthropology is that not just anthropology, my idea in GS and anthropology is I believe writing in answers in points, because it will make the answer look more organized and more structured in nature, which is the normal introduction, body and conclusion. Conclusion should be on a positive note. Body, I am someone who writes it in points. You can write it in a mix of paragraphs, points, only paragraphs if that works for you. There is no specific rule as such. Okay. So I don't think, I think and paper 2, that's it, that's what I did. And use internet wherever if you want to use it. That is going to again add any marks. Anything in paper 2? Paper 2 I am assuming most of you have not started, right? So you have no idea about it. Paper 1 is going to take almost 60% of your time of anthropology, 60 or maybe 70% of the time. Paper 2 is more of application of the concepts of paper 1. It will not take much time. It is more interesting also. Marks pakkan bedte, it is very interesting, paper 2. Paper 1 is more boring than paper 2. But somewhere to gain that marks, I think these are some things you can, it is going to work. The goal of all the papers is, it's a competitive exam, right? So the person who is correcting my paper is going to correct it among 10 or 15 people or maybe more than that who have written the same kind of answers. How am I going to make my answer look more interesting? Okay, how am I not going to bore the examiner who is already bored with reading so many papers and so many answers? So like you said, if you can give examples from your own or any other examples, if you can research it from the internet, then that is going to bring in a new dimension to your answers. Never be scared of experimenting with your answers. Keep doing that in test series. Sir will guide you whether that is right or wrong, you can do it or not. So that also is going to help. Okay, should we start with GS then? Okay. Huh? Can you be a little louder, please? For what? Anthropology, yeah? Concept wise, go syllabus wise. I am assuming all of you have the syllabus printout with you. Extremely important, and previous year question papers. That is going to guide you as to what concepts you should read, how depth you have to go in all the concepts, what kind of questions are going to ask. Okay, not just for anthropology but for GS also. Please use them as a guide for your preparation throughout the journey. Okay, note making adgara, I would say anthropology, please go topic wise, make notes. Other than that, use one basic material. For you, it can be Vishnu sir's notes. Okay, and then keep adding from other sources wherever it is required. For example, you need to understand, I'll tell you what mistake I did initially. In paper 1, there is a concept called cell, the biological basis of life, protein synthesis, DNA DNA replication process. You have these concepts. Okay, now I have spent like 3 or 4 days making notes on these concepts. Okay, and it is very rare that you get questions from this area, very rare. I don't think in the past 10 or 15 years there are more than 1 or 2 questions hardly out of these concepts, that too not in 10 marker, in the 15 or 20 marker which you can easily skip even if it comes. Okay, so I would say please see the previous year question papers. You will have an idea of what topics are important and what are not. You can take about 20-25 days for anthropological theories, completely justified, because you will get questions from that and the output from that is great if you can write your answers from there. Okay, but that is not acceptable if you put that time in that cell lesson. Now again, that does not mean you are going to completely skip that lesson. Who knows, tomorrow suddenly one question will come from that area in 10 marks, and then 10 marks you can't leave it, right? You have to write. So don't leave any topic, but use your previous year question papers to understand that which topic are more important and which topic is not so important. Okay, based on that, give your time to all the topics and prepare. Okay, any other doubts?
What is the last year revisions comparing with the GS and the optional? How was your revision pattern
before mains? Between the period of prelims and mains is what you are asking? Okay. So last year 2021 my score in GS was 399. Okay, 412 in 4 GS papers. Okay, 226 in optional and 123 in essay. So the lesson learnt after the result was, I am good in GS, I am terrible in anthropology, and that is what costed me that attempt, to be very honest. So what I did in these 3 months, because there is a very little gap between the final result of last year and only after the final result is when you get your mark sheet. So you will get an understanding of how you have scored, where you have scored, where you need to work on, right? So I had only the 3 months between prelims and mains to prepare for whatever papers I am going to write in the coming mains. Now considering my anthropology score, I gave about 70% of my time only for anthropology. Now don't take this as an example, okay? I'll tell you the negative side of this also. Okay, 70% of my time I have given in anthropology. every day I used to write Sir's test series. Sir divides the entire syllabus into 90 parts or so for 90 days. Every day one topic, he'll give 2 questions on that topic. We have a daily answer writing group where people post answers, whoever is writing test series. Sunday we come and write the test for all the 6 topics which we studied in that week. I did this only for 70% of my time. Okay, I was kind of confident, overconfident, seeing my GS marks, saying anyway I'll make it to GS, not a big deal. This attempt, my score in anthropology has got me rank. So 70% has given me returns, but my score in GS has come down by 13 marks. And this 13 marks would have got me into IAS. Okay, so the moral of the story is, do not ignore any of the papers in UPSC. Every paper is important. And when I say every paper, I just do not mean GS or optional. I am also saying CSAT, the optional paper and the English paper that you are going to write in mains. That also has to be given equal importance. I know of people who have failed in optional paper. Not optional, the language paper. Okay, now considering all of us keep writing in English after 10th, I am assuming no one has studied language after 10th. So, though we think that okay, I can write Hindi or English or Telugu, not English of course, that is easy to clear. We will think that Telugu is easy, we will write it, not a big deal, but it is difficult. Okay, so practice 3-4 previous year question papers. CSAT, again, I am, how many of you have seen this year's question paper prelims? All of you have seen? How was the paper? Huh? Huh? Okay. Yeah, it was tough. I am not an engineer. I am a BCom honors student. So, I am assuming it was easy for engineers. Is it true? How many of you are engineers here? Okay. So, how was the paper for all of you? I get told by my engineering friend saying it is a misconception that engineers are good in maths. Is it true? Is it true or false? Okay, so I have been told that this year's CSAT paper was found to be difficult for people who have come from IITs also. So that means the paper was tough. But what are we going to do if the paper is difficult? Are we going to go and sit in the courts? We don't have that luxury or that time, right? So we have to just adapt to the changing, we'll just sit and complain and cry for 2 days. But at the end of the day, you'll have to clear prelims if you want to write mains and if you want to make it to the list. So we have to prepare it under all circumstances. Do not ignore any paper, give equal importance to every paper. Prelims has become so difficult that never write any of your prelims without preparation. Prepare and write prelims. This might sound a bit negative, but prelims has become somewhere that even if you prepare 100%, there are chances that you will fail in prelims. It has become more of a luck factor than knowledge. I cleared prelims. I thought I'll fail prelims this year. I have been extremely lucky. I'll accept that also. I was on complete borderline for prelims. So do not ignore any paper, give equal importance to every paper. Please practice for CSAT, practice the language papers and study, and then I'm sure you can definitely do it. Do not ignore GS papers also. I'm sorry I diverted from your question as to how I balanced. I gave 70% of my time for anthro. Other than that, I focus on essay ethics. Essay ethics, the reality is, essay ethics and optionals is the game changer for the mains. Okay, GS everyone is going to score around 100 marks, 110, but of course 1 or 2 marks is going to make a huge difference in the final list also. But in general, if we see the papers which are going to completely be in extremes is optional and essay ethics. So I gave more time to this. GS I gave very less time for the other 3 papers. I did maybe like 20-30% of my time, but that is how I balance my time. But I would say 60% time or 60 to 65% of your time on optional, essay, ethics, and the rest 35 or 40% of the time on 3 GS papers is enough. I think that is how you can balance your time, because GS, if you have cleared prelims, that means you have studied all the subjects in GS, right? And that again is a very important component of your 3 GS papers in mains. So little bit of brushing of topics here and there, picking up concepts which are additional from prelims, that is going to help you with GS papers in mains. That is again to do with answer writing. If you have that practice, then again that is not a big deal. Any other questions? Please open up, please ask questions. Okay, we'll go with all the papers initially. Let us start with prelims. If you are done with your doubts, I'll start with prelims. Yeah.
In paper 2, regarding thinkers, we need to write only from anthropology, or else if we remember one or two and the exemption case, can we include from other thinkers in paper 2?
Paper 2 you can include anything. Yeah, that is not a big deal. Anything if it is related to the topic, then you can definitely include it. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. There is no boundary. As far as you are making sense and you are related to the topic. Okay, now for some example, you can't give some anthropologists only because you have to include the names. Okay, there are some people who will just put flow chart 1, 2, 3, 4 points just to cover page. No use. Okay, so that these tricks are not going to make any great difference. In fact, I think that will have a negative impression on the person who's reading your answers. But anything, if it justifies your answer, if it adds on to your answer, it is related to the question asked, then I don't think there is any boundary with using those examples. No doubt at all. Any other doubts? Anthro is done. Should we proceed to any doubts? Yeah.
What do you think, what made your answer so perfect that you are near to 325 Anthro?
Okay.
The one thing you focused on answer writing, made you score 325 Anthro.
Okay. So when I wrote Anthro paper, I also didn't expect I'll cross 300. I was expecting I'll score somewhere around 280, 290, but I was sure I did better than the last time. What worked out for me was, I have used anthropologist's name in every answer. Okay. One is the names of anthropologists. Okay. I have taken initial 5 to 10 minutes to pick the 3 questions which I am going to answer. Okay. Correct choosing of questions. Okay. And if possible, using the definitions of given by exactly by the anthropologists. So for example, marriage ki there is one 5-6 line definition given by Kathleen Go. I cannot maybe recollect the marriage is an institution between a woman and one or more persons such that the child born to the woman. It's a big example. I have not revised my concepts of these concepts in paper 1, so I can't recollect it right now. So if possible, for each topic, kind of mug up the definitions. This might seem very boring, but try to do that. If you can do that, then I think it can add extra marks as well. Another thing, answer all the subparts of the question. See, now one question is going to, I have been told, I don't know again whether this is correct or not, that the people who are correcting the papers are told that how much marks is to be given to each subpart in the question. That is how they are directed to answer the, give marks in the mains. So if you don't answer one subpart of the question, say one question of 20 marks has 3 subparts. Let's consider he has given 8, 7, 5 marks. Okay. So if you somehow, if you don't know, or maybe in negligence you have skipped this 7 mark, you are going to lose 7 marks in that answer, irrespective of however good your other parts of the answer be. So for GS or for optional, I would say please answer every subpart of the question. Okay. If possible, make use of maps, diagrams, world map, flow charts. Again, flow charts is not like this. For example, I'll give you paper 2 one question which was asked last year, 2022. One question was asked with difference to 2 international organizations. One was BRICS and other I don't remember something. And it was a 10 marker question. The question has had 5 subparts. Okay. 10 marker question, you will have 2 sides of a page. Okay. And the question was, what are the differences between those 2 bodies? What are the objectives of these bodies? How is it going to help India, with respect to these 2? Now this question has so many subparts. If I take the luxury of writing each point wise, then I'm not going to answer all the subparts. In this case, you can use the example of this flow chart. For example, objectives. Like this, one-liner, done. Objectives of BRICS, objectives of something else. So this way, when you have too many subparts and you need to save space, this time you can use flow charts and all of that. So that is going to maybe make answers look more organized also, and will ensure that you answer all subparts of the question. Okay. These are the few things which I have done. Maybe 290, 300 would be my hard work. Maybe 325 is I've been lucky that day. Okay. Again, not doubting the UPSC's way of correcting answers, but none of us know how it is corrected and all of that. I would say I did give my best for both the papers. I worked hard also, so that could be the result of hard work, whatever I did it, but I'm sure there would be a little bit of luck also in how much I have scored. So it's a mix of both. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
How did you choose questions in those 5 minutes?
Can you repeat?
How did you choose 3 questions in those 5 minutes?
Okay. So, how did I choose these 3 questions in the 5 minutes? You will see the 20 marker question first. Okay, you will have 3 questions in every question. One is 20 marker, then you will have 15, 15. In case you have no idea about any one of those questions, no, out of 3, skip that question. Because you might write exceptionally well in these 2 answers, but you are going to lose 15 marks. That is not acceptable, right? You should know something of all the 3 answers. And you have to pick up questions in which you have greater knowledge in the 20 marker. Okay, that is something again you can do. In paper 1, there was a question on 20 marker was, what are the factors which have led to reduction in the age of menarche? Now, I didn't study on that topic. Even if we give an answer, we are going to give a very general answer saying nutritional factors, environment factors. I do not have a scientific knowledge of why this is actually happening, or I do not have studies of learned people whom I can quote in the answers. I didn't research on that topic. So I said, instead of giving a generalized answer, let us leave that question. So I left that question. So 120 marker I left. The other questions I answered was somatotyping was one question. Why did Heath-Carter method was chosen and all. There you have a lot of scope of writing these people's methodology. Why did they choose Heath-Carter method, or Sheldon is one person who's given her method. So there I thought I can show my expertise in application of anthropology is the topic. So I thought there I can show my expertise. Another question was what is the link between the patriarchal notions and passing of lineage or something like that. That question I attempted. I thought I can interlink concepts from kinship, marriage. I had one theory of one person, Robin Fox. So I said, this guy's theory is there, no? This theory is not there in any other books as far as I've read. So I said, if I give this theory, I am assuming most of the people would not have written this theory, would not know about this theory. I thought I'll use that theory, maybe it will add marks, and I knew about the concept, so I chose that question. So, yeah, and basic knowledge in all the 3. And pick up questions where your answers will not look more like general studies answer, and where you can show your expertise in anthro. Okay, any other questions?
Did you notice any surprise questions in the paper, and how did you tackle those questions you encountered last year?
Honestly, 2021-22 there are no surprise questions. 20 surprise questions are there. I don't know how I would have tackled it, I have no idea. 21-22 I have been lucky, no surprise questions. If this year it comes, next year I will come and tell you how I tackled surprise questions. Hopefully it does not come. Any other questions? You will have one definition of every institution which evolved the last in the 20th century or last, after criticizing all the other definitions given by people. Andarni criticize chesi finally oka definition istar evaro okalu. So you pick that definition, mug it up, right. Undi, but edo oka definition rayal kada. Yeah, marriage definition is not universal, but I didn't give the definition of marriage. Kathleen Gowe has given it. If you don't agree with it, it is not my problem, it is Kathleen Gowe's problem. So when you use the definition of others, it becomes a way where you can, push that responsibility. If you can, that is the additional point of GS also. If law commission says that it is not the right time to bring in uniform civil code, it is not my opinion, it is law commission's opinion. You can't penalize me for giving that opinion, right? The same is also used in interviews also. So do not be afraid of using these definitions. Though it might not apply to all the societies, there will be exceptions in everything. But they have been given by learned anthropologists, and I think you can use them easily, not a big issue. With regard to what you will do with surprise questions, if they are surprise questions for you, it is surprise questions for everyone. So all of us are on level playing field, do not get bothered by such questions, okay? If you know, write it, otherwise leave it, not a big issue. You were asking something?
If we don't know any question, if we have any minimum knowledge, if we write that, is it going to work?
I write. I am someone who goes with the mindset that I am not leaving any question. If I know something about the question also, I will write, okay? So sometimes it might backfire, I don't know if it has backfired or not, but I am someone who believes in answering all the questions, okay? See, even if it can add 1 or 2 marks also, it is going to make a big difference, right? So never lose that opportunity of gaining marks anywhere. 1-2 marks ikkada కూర్చొని మనం అంటాము 1-2 marks, what is going to, how is it going to make a difference? But when you make it to the list, no, when you will miss your cadre, when you will miss your service, then you will be like, array, that 7 marker question, that 10 marker, that 15 marker. So don't miss an opportunity of gaining those marks anywhere. Okay, any other questions? Should we proceed with prelims then? Yeah, there is no like punishment for asking questions later on. For example, even if I am discussing GS, you can ask me questions on Anthro, I'll answer. So all of you are like kind of, there is no outsider here, okay, so not a big deal. You can ask questions at any time. In case you forget asking it now, you can ask it whenever you remember also, okay. Okay, so let us, I'll tell you my story of prelims. Then you decide whether you will follow my prelims strategy or not. There is no strategy. Even I am waiting for the right strategy for prelims, okay. 2020 prelims I failed. I went with full preparation, I failed. I scored 65 marks in paper 1, okay. I prepared really well. My mindset was not right. I got very nervous and anxious during the exam. Time management became an issue. I lost 2020 prelims. That was a disaster. 2021, 87.54 was the cutoff. My score was 87.54. So this is how much on borderline I am, okay. 2022, okay, 87, 88 something it was. My score is 93 something. So again, that is a borderline only. 2 questions I have been lucky this side and I am into the list, okay. 2023, I am scoring based on few keys. I am scoring in the range of 78 to 86. This is the range I am scoring based on the keys of different institutions. I don't know. CSAT, I am okay, 75 or something I scored. CSAT, again, I'll tell you what I did for CSAT also, in case if it helps. For prelims, I am not very strong, okay. I have failed in 1 prelims. I clear prelims every year with a borderline only, and there is no 1 year where I have been 100% sure that I am going to clear prelims and I will start preparing for mains from tomorrow onwards. So I have always been in that borderline. I am very unsure of my prelims result, but still I'll tell you what I did for prelims. Has everyone started reading NCRTs? What subjects have been started for all of you? History and polity. Yeah, very nice. Okay, so you read NCRTs for all the books, for all the subjects whichever are available. History 10th varaku chadvandi. 11th 12th it is up to you whether you read Tamil Nadu NCRTs, whether you read old NCRTs, new NCRTs. That is completely up to you. You can prepare anything. For modern history, I have read old NCRT and I have read Spectrum for modern, okay. For medieval, I have read my class notes, to be really honest. That's it, nothing else. I bought old NCRTs, but after reading I was like, I am not reading this. Okay. Then what did we miss? Ancient, I read old NCRT and class notes. Class notes. Art and culture, NCRTs is enough. Considering I had started my preparation when I was in college, I had a lot of free time to waste. So I did waste time by doing all this nonsense. I am not saying the book is nonsense, it is very, very interesting, but the cost to benefit ratio of that book is very less. So if NCRT and class notes can do the thing for you, the disaster. I said I am not reading anything from now on. I used to read Yojana Kurukshetra magazine when I was in college. When I failed in my first attempt, I said I am not reading any of this. Okay, so that was how I became. For mains, I read mains 365 of vision. It is pretty good. Please keep reminding me of the subjects, I'll tell you. Geography, NCRTs. GC Leong, very, very selective reading. GC Leong is not needed, to be very honest, but even if you need it, part 2 of that paper related to climates, different climates, is pretty good. You can go for that also. For IR, my source is mains 365 and question papers. Subjects, guys, what are the other subjects? Economy newspapers, and I read Shriram MAIS. See, the thing for economy is Okay, the thing for economy is, in economy, it does not matter which book you refer to, okay, as far as your conceptual clarity is very good. Okay, for prelims they'll ask questions about repo rate, reverse repo. Now it does not matter which book you have referred to, as far as you are very clear with what these concepts are. Okay, so if you can do that bit, does not matter whether it is Sriram IAS, Ramesh Singh book, class notes, conceptual clarity is all we need in economy. Any book is fine. Okay. For mains, everything I have read, I have added it with mains 365. What are the other subjects, if I have missed any? Science and technology. Science and technology, NCRTs, okay, and mains 365. I am very bad in science and technology, guys. So that is one area where I am like, I used all these techniques of all of the above are correct. Futuristic technologies are always correct. You will have some tricks in prelims, right? So that is how I have cleared science and technology in my prelims. I am not very great with science and technology. That is one of my weak areas. Other subjects? What are social issues will get covered in Anthro, don't worry. NCRTs. World history. My expression tells you how much I love world history. So just because I had to write mains, so there is one topic of world history. God has been kind to me that 2 years no questions from world history have been asked. World history is not there in prelims. That is again like your art and culture only. Art and culture is still fine. That is your cell lesson in anthropology, world history. Okay. So you can any classes that can ease you with world history. If someone is taking here in the institute world history, listen to his class, make notes. That's it. No other book for world history. I've heard a lot of people who refer to some. There's a big book. I don't remember the name also. I can't recollect the name. I didn't read all of that. Don't waste your time on world history. Questions వస్తాయి లేకపోతే రాదు. 2 years నుంచి రాలేదు. Prelims లో అసలు అడగరు. Mains లో అడిగిన hardly one question, not more than that. That could be a 15 or 10 marker. For that 15 or 10 marker, you listen to class notes, make your class notes enough. Nothing more than that. Okay. Anything else? World history, geography, disaster management. Any material from internet is okay. Anything is okay. International relations, governance, mains 365 question paper is what I have referred to. Internal security also I have referred to online videos. Internal security also you can go through mains 365. And anyone, if you have classes where internal security is told you, again that is also same. Not as bad as world history, but you will have 2 or 3 questions from internal security every year. They revolve around the same topics, Naxalism, left-wing extremism, these kind only. So that is something that you can kind of predict. And if you have a basic understanding of these topics, it is enough. If you have any classes for internal security, listen to that, make your notes enough. Nothing more than that required. What else is there? Post-independence, that is one mystery to me even now. I am like, what are you going to cover after post-independence? Everything we are reading, economy, polity, the evolution of IR, everything is post-independence only, no? So I am like, I didn't prepare specifically for that. It will get covered in all the other things, you can manage it from there itself. What else is left? Ethics is again one, for ethics, no? First see the syllabus and see the previous year question papers. Okay, then you will understand there is no need of a lot of expert level knowledge in ethics. They are basically trying to judge what is your opinion on issues and how you see different things in life, how are you going to tackle these issues in day-to-day life. Okay, so there is no need of any specialized level of knowledge for ethics. The only good thing that you can do for ethics is to answer questions, write answers for different papers. The more you write, the better it is for ethics. That is how it helps. I bought lexicon book, I read 10 pages, I was like, is this going to make any use? Again, I am not degrading any book. For basic level knowledge, maybe even that can help. I bought lexicon, but I didn't read it. What I did was I used internet. I googled all the basic words which are there in the syllabus, right? understand what these basic terms are, like probity in governance or responsibility. For example, if suddenly I say responsibility, all of us know what responsibility is, right? But if I ask you to define it, then we are going to be, how are we going to make it more simpler in nature? So that is what you are going to do for ethics. Pick up all the key terms, understand the meaning of all these words, okay? One very good source for ethics is read toppers answer sheets. Last year topper, Shruti Sharma's answer sheets are exceptional in ethics. I have never seen someone write that level of answers in ethics. She has scored 140 something in ethics, which is very high considering that paper. You can go through her paper. She has written the paper in such a way that one paper of hers has 30 examples. So you can just imagine the quality of answers she has written. You can refer to her answers. Topper's answer sheet, you can see, you will get an idea of how to answer case studies, how to answer all the 10 markers and all. Time management again becomes an issue in ethics. Please take care of that, because these are very lengthy questions, case studies and all. Especially last year's paper was exceptionally lengthy. So time management is important. More you write, the better it is for ethics. Nothing specific on that. More and more examples are going to help. Examples of civil servants, examples of your daily life, history examples of Mahatma Gandhi or any other thing. If you have read, if someone who's lot into reading books, then you can pick examples from there. And then examples from Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita. These things can add marks. Someone is saying something. You can do all of this for ethics. That is more than enough. The more you write, the better it is for ethics. Nothing more than that. Any doubts? Now let me just answer GS 1 to 3 papers at a time. You know the book list what I followed, sources what I followed, and what I did for GS 1 to 3. Okay. The first thing is you are supposed to answer 20 questions without fail. If you skip 3 questions in one paper, or maybe 2 questions in each paper, 4 papers is what? 8 questions. Even if there are 10 markers, it is 80 marks. Assuming you will get the least marks of at least 30, 30%, 30 marks if you get also, you are like final list 30 marks makes a huge difference. So there is no way you are going to leave any of the answers in any of your papers. All questions must be definitely answered. Okay. How am I going to manage the time? There are 10 15 markers and there are 10 markers. Okay. So I start with 15 markers, which is section B. Half an hour I write 3 answers, which means 10 minutes for each 15 marker. Okay. Which means I am going to complete 10 questions in 1 hour 40 minutes, right? 5 minutes spare time you can keep, because you will have that examiner come bubble the sheet and all of that. 1 hour 15 minutes is where you are going to answer the 10 markers, and that is enough, not a big deal. Okay, 7 minutes for each 10 marker is more than enough. That is not a big issue. That is how you can do. How are you going to increase your marks in GS 1 and 2? Data, reports like NFHS, economic survey, committee reports, recommendations of committees, then data, committee reports. Write it in point wise if possible. Answer all subparts of the question. Try to keep your points as crisp as possible. Do not extend your answers. For example, what are the issues with the education system in India? Infrastructure is one point. Right? Give data to substantiate that point. Now don't keep infrastructure as a side heading and give like 2-3 lines of explanation. Okay. So as crisp, as clear you keep your answer, the better it is going to be. Okay. Committee reports, data from various sources. You can use reports like Nidhi Pai report. You can use these kind of. There is a report called India at 75 by Nidhi Pai. That book was released in 2018. The book is very good, and I am assuming you can quote it even now, the examples, but you have lot of reports like that coming by the government. You can use such data, write it in your answer. Economic survey is something you are going to definitely read. If you are going to add these points, it will add marks in your answers. for GS 1 to 3. For ethics, as I told you, give examples of civil servants from the Indian mythology or any other books, movie references you can give, that is also completely fine. Okay, answer all the questions, a lot of examples in the 10 markers, and that is going to help you in ethics. Anthro we have already discussed. What we are left is with essay, right? Now there is no one way of writing an essay, there are multiple ways, you can use any. I'll tell you briefly how I look at an essay. Firstly, there is going to be an introduction where I am going to write a quote. I am very bad with remembering quotes, so I usually don't use them, because if you're writing a quote, then you'll have to use exactly the words used by them, and my memory is very bad with regard to that, so I usually avoid using quotes. Or you can use an anecdote, which is a story. Okay, anecdote is something that you can use, or any other thing which catches the attention of the examiner. Okay, after intro you are going to have a trailer which I call, it is called a summary, but trailer is what I like to tell. Trailer is something that one paragraph you are going to say what am I going to write in my upcoming paragraphs in this essay. Like give me a topic for essay, let us like fastly discuss over that topic. Okay, last year topic I will give. A hand that rocks the cradle rules the world was 2021 topic. I scored 123 in that paper. Another topic is also there, I don't know how much individually I have scored, but I have scored 123. I will tell you how I make a brief sketch of my essay in the initial 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, pick up the right topic, don't change your topic midway, that is again another warning I have to do, because you have limited space, nobody is going to give you additionals there. Choose your topic very wisely and then spend 15 to 20 minutes on brainstorming that particular topic. First, for example, let us take this thing. Okay, for this you can give an example of anything. You can give any home example or some very established lady. For example, you can take Sudha Murthy. What does this topic particular tell you? What is it related to? Anyone? Womanhood. Not specifically women are better mothers or anything, but it is mostly to do with motherhood or the concept of bringing children, bringing up children or upbringing process and all of that. What I did was I never looked at to the angle of only women empowerment. I tried to make it more gender neutral in nature. The entire essay was gender neutral because there is no specific boundary saying that only women are the mothers these days, right? So everyone is bringing up a child. There is LGBTQ community, there are a lot of adoption, single parents, that is also happening. So this can't be just restricted to women. So I tried to look at through the lens of all the genders this particular topic. Okay, then in the trailer what am I going to say is what is the meaning of this particular sentence, why is it important, why do we say this, okay, how can this be applied in various concepts like political, economic. There is a pestle format, I am sure all of you must have heard it: political, social, economic, technological, cultural. You can add scientific, you can add multiple dimensions based on your understanding, ethical dimension. Okay, so that tribal examples you can add, not this one, but anywhere you can keep adding those topics as well. So you make a brief sketch of what all these angles that you are going to cover, and write this is a trailer, this is what I am going to cover in my entire essay, is what you are going to write. Next paragraph onwards, start your body of the essay. Any topic, what I do is I try to trace the evolution of that topic from historical background. So every topic is going to have particular history, right? So if you are speaking about upbringing of a child or motherhood as a concept, that also has a history. We are going to, all of you are going to study it as part of anthropology, how the concept of marriage evolved, because marriage is one of the institutions for the upbringing of a child, because marriage is an institution which is going to bind the two partners. So if there is one partner who is restricted at home to take care of the child, the other partner can go out and bring in resources for the baby and the mother. So that is how the evolution happened. So you can go with evolution of every particular topic. You will have examples from mythology that you can add. Then you can add in modern history concepts of virtue, where women have played a crucial role in the independence struggle. Then you can come back to political angle, where you can explain some articles from the constitution of how this is being done. Then you can come to social angle of how this concept is changing. It is not just related to women. It is brought in the concept of LGBTQ community. Same-sex marriage is what people are talking about. Okay, so these things, and what are the negative things of this? So basically you brainstorm, sit down and think whatever ideas you can think of this particular topic, and then sit down, organize in a proper, and you conclude the essay by again, your conclusion in your essay, introduction is something that is going to grab the attention of the examiner. To conclusion also you pick up something in the form of a quote or again an anecdote, for example a continuation of the anecdote that you started with to end that particular essay, and that is how you are going to end an essay. Again, how are you going to improve marks in essay? By practice. There are no books for essay. The only practice to essay is writing. The more you write, the better you become. If you do not have an idea, or if you are clueless as to how to write an essay, you have a lot of platforms like Vision, Forum. These platforms have copies of toppers answer sheets. You can any day go and look at those toppers answer sheets, not just for essay, for any paper. Then you will get a clear idea of how you need to approach the answers. Okay. Any other doubts? Okay, so IR, what I did was, initially when we start our preparation, we do not know the background of issues, right? So for example, if I suddenly have started preparation today and I open the newspaper and I read something about Israel and Palestine, so most of us don't know what the history of that is. So back then what I used to do was, I used to read the newspaper. In that particular thing, they will give you a background of all the issues which are there in the newspaper. So if Israel-Palestine is being issued, they will give you a background of the entire Israel-Palestine issue from the starting. So that if you do for 6 months initially, if you combine your newspaper reading with such videos, you don't have to see only Byju's. Lot of the platforms have come up where they give you daily answer analysis, daily newspaper analysis. So if you read the analysis, by 6 months you will have a clarity of what are the background of all the issues in IR, or for that matter any other topic that is going on in India. So that somewhere builds your base. After that I think it is newspaper and only mains 365. I have not read anything specifically for IR. Anything else? Note making first attempt lo cheskunnanu, but then I realized it is waste of time. So I don't make any more notes from now on. I read newspaper every day. I used to read monthly Vision magazine and make notes out of that also. After I flunked first prelims, I stopped doing all of that, and I decided I'm going to read only PT 365, newspaper and PT 365. For mains 365 is my only source for current affairs. I do not make any newspaper notes. Whenever you make notes, I always tell that, are you going to go to the end and revise these notes? Like if you make, example I'll give you of newspaper, even if you make 1-page note every day for 365 days, before prelims can you revise to 365 pages? So that is the question. If the answer is yes, go forward and make the notes, otherwise leave it. I would say wherever things have been made easy for us by coaching institutions, please make use of them. Okay, don't be hesitant saying I'm going to just work hard. Maybe that is what people call smart work, right? So if someone has made it easier for you, please take that and you make use of it. There is no specific thing saying you have to make notes, but if that makes you comfortable, then you can go ahead with it. Newspaper revision, that's what I told you, right? PT 365 newspaper revise aipotundi. That is not a big deal. PT 365 is a compilation of all current affairs, right? So I think that is enough for newspapers. Anything else? Any other questions, guys? Throughout the entire preparation you can ask. Want to know the interview experience?
Yes, please.
Okay. So interview experience, I've given twice interview. First one was average, 173 marks. Second one was a very big disaster, 151 marks. Okay. So interview, again there are a lot of things saying this board is like that board is like that. Some boards are tough, we can't deny that. Some boards are easy, but we do not know what is their pattern of marking. But interview is a very, very fun experience. When you clear prelims, when you clear mains, you already start feeling like an officer in that sari, in that suit and in that formal attire. Okay. When you go to mock interviews, you speak to all these retired officials. That's a very, very great feeling. It's a great source of motivation. Okay. So for that, the preparation is only preparing for your DAF, focusing on current affairs, which by the course of clearing prelims mains, you must have already done quite a lot. So that is not going to feel very heavy. And then if you give mock interviews and all, that is going to build up your confidence. And on the interview day, just be thinking of the fact that you are here after clearing 2 rounds of this exam, and you are already among the top what 3,000 or 2,000 people who have given this exam out of lakhs of students. Okay, and you're going to give that interview with a lot of confidence and a lot of self-faith, and with not you don't take ideas of this board stuff, that board stuff which I did this year. Don't do it. So you go with a free mindset. Just express how your true self as an individual are. And I think that is what interview is, a very, very chill down and a very, very beautiful process, guys. It's the most fun part of the entire exam, and you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. So yes, that's what I would say. Any other questions? Civil services has been my childhood dream. Since I was in high school, I always wanted to be a civil servant. So I started preparation early on. My parents have never put in a lot of pressure on me. So they said just prepare. Result is like, forget results. Just prepare. So I kept preparing during the graduation exam. When I flunked first prelims, that failure was my motivation. Like, how did I fail? I have been pretty good with my academics throughout my school time, and that first failure hits you very hard, saying I have failed. Okay, how did I fail? So that was my motivation for the next year. I'm saying this time I gave my first attempt when I was in my final year of college. So I had that excuse of, okay, maybe college edo distraction vachesi, maybe that impacted my preparations, but that is just an excuse again. It was my fault. So that acted as my motivation, saying I'm going to like clear prelims now. I have to clear prelims. How can I fail any? Then I went second attempt. I cleared prelims. I gave mains. Once you clear prelims, that motivation factor does not come only because you have so much less time between prelims and mains. You don't have the option to sit down freely and think, saying, what is my motivation? You're like a machine for those 3 months. Until days are like going like this, and you have no count of, prelims, GS avutundi, optional miss avutundi, optional avutundi, ethics miss avutundi, ethics cheste essay miss avutundi. So that is just a, roller coaster of emotions. So these things do not bother you at all. Second attempt, when I didn't clear the exam, I missed the final cutoff by 25 marks. I was like, if I've come this far, I can make it to the list definitely. I need to just work on areas where I have lost marks, which was my optional. And that was a fire, saying, I've inta dooram vachanante definitely o roju clear chestanu ani. Okay, so that acted as my motivation. Now this year, when I see my marks in interview has been 151. Now this, now I've 110 rank is what I've got this year, and I'm expecting my second preference of service, which is Indian Revenue Service, Customs and Central Excise. Now my motivation is, am I only capable of 151 marks in interview? Is this what my personality is? I am definitely more than 151, and I need to prove it to myself, not to anyone else. Okay, so that is my motivation, saying I'm definitely more than 151, and I'm going to get that share of my marks, whichever, whatever it is there. So that is acting as my motivation. Kuchoni, what motivates me, and alochana cheyadaniki time ledu, September lo mains undi. Okay, so that is what is the motivation. But once you start writing that exam, and when you చాలా దగ్గర వచ్చి చాలా మందికి పోతుంది ప్రిలిమ్స్ అయినా మెయిన్స్ అయినా, సో దట్ ఈస్ అ ఫైర్ దట్ నెవర్ లెట్ దట్ థింగ్స్ discourage you. That should act as a positive force for you, which will encourage you to sit down and prepare again. See, it's a very competitive exam. Daily అనిపిస్తుంది when you walk on the Ashok Nagar road, I used to think అందరూ 20 to 30 ఏజ్ గ్రూప్ బుక్స్ పట్టుకొని బ్యాగ్ తీసుకొని తిరుగుతూ ఉంటాను. అసలు పాసిబులా 1000 వేకెన్సీస్ పర్ ఇయర్ అవుతుందా? దిస్ ఇస్ జస్ట్ హైదరాబాద్, ఇంకా ఇండియాలో ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు, ఢిల్లీలో ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు, అవుతుందా అసలు పాసిబులా అనుకున్నాను. బట్ రిమెంబర్ దట్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద ఆస్పిరెంట్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ సీరియస్ ఫర్ దిస్ ఎగ్జామ్. ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ అ సీరియస్ ఆస్పిరెంట్ హూ గివ్స్ లైక్ proper 7 to 8 hours or a minimum number of hours every day, then you will definitely clear it one day. If you do the necessary things which are required for the exam, then you can definitely do it one day. Any other doubts? Yeah, very good question. I'm sorry I missed CSAT. CSAT lo em cheyalante, there are 3 sections broadly, which is quantitative aptitude, one is reasoning, and one is English comprehension. You need to make sure that you are pro in one of the sections. Okay, you need to be an expert ante, not that every question should go right, but you should be kind of having a comfort level with one of the sections. For example, that section for me is English comprehension. I know that if 24 questions are asked in English comprehension, I will get minimum 20 right. That is the level of confidence I have on myself after solving like previous 10 questions from 2013 nunchi I've solved all the previous year question papers. Now any sections you need to be comfortable with. You can't afford to be scared of any of the sections. Reasoning, I am comfortable with reasoning. I can solve few questions. I'm not scared of reasoning, so I'm going to pick up the easier questions, a little tough one also from reasoning, because I've practiced it over a course of time. ఇప్పుడు quantitative aptitude I'm not great in maths, okay, so that is one thing, and I'm assuming that in each section they are going to give you few questions which are easy. The trick to CSAT is to manage your time, okay. The trick in CSAT is to pick up the easier questions out of all the 3 sections and answer them within those 2 hours, and that is how it is only a matter of 27 right questions if you look at it, out of which if you are perfect with any one section you have covered 24 questions. For example, this year 24 questions were asked from reading comprehension. Let's assume I got 4 wrong in that, okay. Even if I get 4 wrong or maybe 6 wrong ankundam, I'll have 18 correct questions. The number of questions which I'll have to answer including the negative marking is about what, 13 or 14 now. Can't I pick easy 13 or 14 questions from the remaining 2 sections? It's easy, right? So that is what you're going to do. Never be scared of that paper. If a paper is tough for you, it is a tough paper for everyone, okay. So half of the game is about keeping your confidence and not getting very scared or anxious during the exam. That ruined one attempt for me and one interview for me, okay. Be very confident, have that faith in yourself that నేను బాగా చదివాను అంటే నాకు టఫ్ ఉంటే అందరికీ టఫే, okay. If I don't know this question, I am assuming most of the people don't know this question. So go with that confidence and answer those questions, then definitely you will do well in every exam that you write. Any other question? Source is previous year 10 questions from 2013 to this year. I have practiced from Arihant book. Any book you can practice, a book konalsina avasaram ledu, you already have a lot of online platforms. CAT exams kaina they give practice questions based on topic wise, adaina me practice. So few things is I have been very honest with newspaper reading, I have not left that. Second, I have been someone who has believed that keeping my foundation strong, which is reading NCERT's basic books. I've kept very limited sources. నేను జిఎస్కి ఎక్సెప్ట్ ఫర్ ఎన్సీఆర్టీస్ అది కాకుండా ఒక అడిషనల్ బుక్ పెట్టుకున్నాను. యాజ్ ఐ ఆల్రెడీ టోల్డ్ యూ మెయిన్స్ హిస్టరీకి క్లాస్ నోట్స్ తప్ప ఇంకేం చదవలేదు నేను. సో లిమిటెడ్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ బుక్స్ రివైజ్ చేస్తూ ఉండాలి, కరెంట్ అఫైర్స్ న్యూస్ పేపర్తో ఫాలో చేస్తూ ఉండాలి, ఆన్సర్ రైటింగ్ చేస్తూ ఉండండి. Once you clear prelims and all, or maybe even if you don't clear prelims, write 3-hour tests, you will know where you are standing. Time management is something that I have taken very seriously from the day one. I knew that if I want to clear mains, I have to complete the paper in 3 hours. So I used to ruthlessly write 3-hour papers when my first mains appudu. కూర్చొని 3 hours, రోజుకి 2 papers కూడా రాశాను, because on the D day you are going to write 2 papers per day, and without practice it is not possible. So I have ruthlessly practiced answer writing as well. That is something I have done in very time restrictions pettukoni rayandi. If you take your own sweet time, I think it is going to be a harm for us only itself. You can't fool anyone else here. Yes, any other doubts? I'll promise you this and I'll tell you, out of all the things that I have done, more than final list lo na peru chudadam kanna, the happiest feeling in this exam is to finish the last paper of mains and come out of the examination hall. ఆ టైంలో ఉన్నంత సాటిస్ఫాక్షన్ అండ్ హ్యాపీనెస్ ఫైనల్ లిస్ట్లో పేరు చూసిన తర్వాత కూడా ఉండదు. దట్ ఈస్ వన్ థింగ్ విచ్ ఇస్ బీన్ కామన్ ఫర్ మీ. Everyone you will see in the examination hall is coming with a big smile on their face, okay. Especially if you have written all the papers well, దానికన్నా పెద్ద సాటిస్ఫాక్షన్ ఇంకా ఏం లేదు. 3 hours you will grind yourself so much between prelims and mains, so much you know you'll have that mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, rastunamu, no Sundays, like too much of pressure for those 3 months. And like writing that 3-hour, that anthropology is the last paper optional, paper 2 when you give it to the examiner and come out as like that's a great feeling, okay. So that is the, after mains it's party 2 months result వచ్చే వరకు, to be very honest. Then again interview again is not a very rigorous process, it's a very chill process. అంటే రోజు nobody takes it that much seriously unless you know your dates are very close. That's again one another kind of celebration, buying new sarees, buying suits, dressing, okay, formal footwear, going for interviews, feeling like an officer, watching your mock interview videos, okay. That is again one another fun trip that you'll have. So that is mains tarvata, it is party only, to be really honest. Day schedule, I try to read 7-8 hours on a daily basis, but prelims mains madhya vachesariki it will definitely cross 10 hours, because that is how much you are like, that is how much pressure you have. Realize avvakunda cross అయిపోతుంది, because you have to cover so many papers. 7 to 8 hours if you study on an average every day, it is more than enough. You can take Sunday off తీసుకోవచ్చు, you can celebrate, you can go out, watch movies, that all is like, don't isolate yourself, this is just an exam, this is not life, okay. We are all of us are in an age group where we are, you know, it's a very high energy kind of period for all of us. So don't like don't punish yourself, enjoy this process. మీరు రోజు 7-8 అవర్స్ చదువుకొని 8 అవర్స్ పడుకున్నా మీకు ఇంకా 8 అవర్స్ 7-8 అవర్స్ ఉంది. ఆ 7-8 అవర్స్లో వెబ్ సిరీస్ చూడండి, మూవీస్ చూడండి, ఫ్రెండ్స్తో పాటు బయట వెళ్ళండి, డూ వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ వాంట్, బట్ మేక్ షూర్ దట్ యూ స్టడీ ఆన్ అన్ యావరేజ్ ఆఫ్ 7 to 8 hours daily. Okay, so it's not like a punishment process. Take it easy, enjoy the entire process. Don't isolate yourself, mental strain తీసుకోండి, depression, no, not required. It is just an exam. Take it as an exam. Okay, so even if you, I'm hoping everyone is going to make it to some or the other service of our choice, but even if we don't make it to the service, this is not something that is going to decide your capability. Okay, this is just an exam. కొంచెం luck అటు ఇటు అయ్యి you are out of the list and I am into the list, that's it. Okay, so don't take it don't take this exam as something that is going to decide how capable you are or you are not. You are maybe destined to be achieve much greater things in life. Okay, I am not trying to like negatively tell this or to all of you. I hope all of you clear this exam, but even if you don't, this is not a matter of life and death, guys. Do not take it that seriously. 10th board exams kuda alane oka pedda idi pettaru, 10th board exams ani, 12th board exams kuda alane pettaru. Engineering entrance rasina valla kuda I am assuming you had that entrance, MSET and రాసి పాస్ అయ్యాం కదా, ఇది కూడా అలానే ఒక ఎగ్జామ్లా తీసుకోండి, చదవండి, రాయండి. రిజల్ట్స్ విల్, ఇఫ్ యూ హవ్ పుట్ ఇన్ ద హార్డ్ వర్క్, యూ విల్ డెఫినెట్లీ గెట్ ద రిజల్ట్స్. ఎనీ అదర్ డౌట్స్? యూ హ్యావ్ టు బి లిటిల్ లౌడర్ ప్లీజ్. సి ఇట్స్ వెరీ, ఇప్పుడు మీకు ఏ క్లాసెస్ జరుగుతున్నాయి అసలు, విచ్ క్లాసెస్, లైక్ ఎవ్రీ డే యూర్ కమింగ్ ఫర్ కోచింగ్ ఇస్ వాట్ ఐమ్ అజ్యూమింగ్. ఒక్క నిమిషం. Tell me what topics are going on, which subjects? History, anthro, essay. Essay and pedda nothing like that is just a practice. There is nothing to go home and read about it. Weekly me 2 essays rasina sarpotundi, not a big deal. History and anthro na every day you have 7 days a week.
History, polity, anthro.
History, polity, anthro na every day you will have these 3 subjects.
In between, instead of polity, it was essay.
Okay, so let's keep essay to a side. Let us take these 3. How many hours do you have these classes?
6 hours.
2 to 2 hours, no? Go home, read the newspaper for 1 hour or 1.5 hours. How much time do you take to read the newspaper? 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Okay, take that 1.5 hours. ఈ 3 క్లాసెస్లో ఏదైతే చదివారో చెప్పారో ఆ రోజు ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి అది రివైజ్ చేయండి. హౌ మచ్ టైమ్ విల్ ఇట్ టేక్ టు రివైజ్ దోస్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్? 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, maximum 2 hours అనుకోండి. Do it, enough. I know it is crossing 8-9 hours, contrary to what I've said of 7-8 hours, but it's, I think you can give in that time, newspaper time reduce avutundi as and when time goes, that time will reduce, and revise these concepts, guys. Don't stop doing this. Sunday, do you have classes on Sunday as well? Take a day off Sunday. Yes, sir. Test rasi, you can just enjoy. Yes, what else? Any other doubt? Should we close the session then? Thank you everyone and all the best to all of you.
Her name is Nidhi. Nidhi means treasury. Treasure. How it became treasure, 9 to 12, 3 hours. Consistently her pen was moving. Writing test. 12 to 1:40. Standing with full energy. So she became treasure, or the result is because of hard work. How we will think that already 9 to 12 I wrote exam, I want 30 minutes break, then I will sit where is chair. See, it's all about hard work. Consistently she is doing hard work, and I worship God that she got 3 digit, now it should be 1 digit. Is it so?
Hopefully, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
My name is Sai Shivani. I come from Warangal district. So I'm born and brought up in Warangal, and a brief duration I stayed in Khammam also. So I studied 10th from Nirmal Hriday High School, that is in Khammam. So post then I joined the 6-year integrated course in IIIT, Andhra Pradesh. So after then graduating in 2022, I started preparing for this exam. So as I said before also, I completed my optional way back in 2021. So that was during the pandemic time. So I took a lot of time to cover anthropology. My favorite discipline is anthropology itself, because during the pandemic time when I was not having much to do, so simply bored off and scrolling through the phone, it didn't make me feel good. So I just started off with something new in life. So I refer to Anudeep Durishetty sir's blog. So he detailedly covered the anthropology strategy and the book list and everything. So I just gave it a try. I didn't know that I was going to finish optional. I just gave it a try. So that risk taking is also important in this exam. So the reason why I'm sharing this is that sometimes we think that we need to put all the efforts, be super serious to carry on, but just that little spark, little curiosity is also important for this exam. So I started it off like that, chapter by chapter. It felt very interesting. So I didn't take any formal coaching for GS or anthropology. I just finished it off, took some little time. Almost I covered anthropology for about an year. So throughout the pandemic, while I was staying at home idly, so I completed the optional back then. So I gave it one reading and made a rough note. So after 2022, when I have decided to give this exam, so I was super serious about this, because you see the competition is huge and nobody knows till your name is in the list. Even I didn't expect, though I was expecting under 50, but this exam is very uncertain. Even the top ranks will not be expecting at least their name in the list. This happens many of times. So I was super serious. If I have to give this exam, I have to give my 100%. If not, I'm not for this exam. So I'll just explore any other thing in life. So this seriousness is very important, because competition is huge. Stakes are so high. We all start for this exam in the early 20s, which is the ideal age for exploration, building up a robust career. But we give up all of that just for this single exam. So the stakes are really high. Either you be serious and pursue this exam, give serious attempts, or just take another stream in life. It's not bad. Like even after giving a lot of time to this exam, you feel drained out and you really think that there is something good in life, you can just go for it. It is not that you have to stay for one single exam all through your 20s, and when you look back, you see only the set of failures. So don't do that mistake. Just be serious. How many number of attempts that you are going to give, that is your personal choice completely. You should decide what are your stakes in life, what is your plan B, and how will your life look balanced if you take this particular step. So after thinking of all of these things, you should start preparing. And initially when I started preparing for this exam in 2022, as everybody has faced, like I also faced similar problems, like what are the standard resources, like few toppers refer some books, few toppers refer some other books, and we always chase the books. We always give a lot of time to find that perfect book for particular resource. So I observed that we waste a lot of time like that. Just refer 2-3 strategy videos of toppers, and whatever are the standard book list, stick to them. There is nothing so tremendous and like exquisite in other books. It is all same in many of the books. Understand one thing, that the books, the teachers, the courses, these are all just a support. These are not the to-do list, or these are not a go-to for this cracking this exam. Everything is just a supporting material. Take it as that only. So when you start reading one book, so for example, if you take polity, we have 2 important NCERT books. One is the Indian Constitution at Work. So the second one is the political theory. So these are the 2 NCERTs I referred thoroughly for polity preparation. So once I have covered these books, then I got a fair idea that how this subject polity is going to be. And after that, I started reading Lakshmikant. But many of us aspirants, we commit mistake that we open Lakshmikant chapter number 1, historical background. So when you see there are all colonial era laws and the different features in each of these laws, how do you expect yourself coming from a different background to understand the laws in the first place? So that is not the right approach. First, get your basics done. Read NCERTs, and also when you read the modern history, you will know why these laws are there. These colonial era laws before 1857, after 1857, what is the difference in each of the charter acts. So reading the book is an art in itself. You should not start with the chapter 1 always. For example, in the polity, at least don't start with historical background, because it's all dry facts. You do not understand the context even. So that is how you should first get your basics right. And I do not ideally prefer reading 6 to 12 NCERT books. So that is my personal opinion, because I didn't refer them. I just referred 1 or 2 NCERT books which are very, very important for few of the subjects, not all of the subjects, because you see NCERT is a lot, and we now got new NCERTs also. So it becomes quite exhaustive to cover NCERTs itself. Remember one thing, whatever you cover for this exam, there should be a return on investment of time. Time and energy are needed, right, to cover a particular subject or a book. When there is no much return for you in the exam, what is the need of covering that book in the first place? So be very specific. It's not important that somebody is reading and I should also try the same. It's not like that. So firstly, I'll tell my book list. So after that, we will proceed with the mindset of the preparation. Then I'll go ahead with prelims, mains and interview briefly. And then you can ask any relevant doubts and I'll be answering the same. So firstly, for book list, for prelims especially, I followed these 2 NCERTs for polity, Indian Constitution at Work and political theory, and then Lakshmikant. So these are enough for polity. Additionally, covering the newspaper regularly helped me a lot in polity questions. Okay, so that is how polity went. Then for geography, I read class 11, class 12 NCERT books, and GC Leong, specifically the climate types, the part B of the book that I covered. So also when you cover this climate patterns, once you were done with all of those, just make a tabular form and refer to that one single time. You see, when we revise the textbook. So that kills a lot of time. Whenever you read a bulky thing, make short notes, make tabular forms so that your revision becomes easy. Same goes with constitutional bodies, non-constitutional bodies in polity. So when you read all those chapters, just 1 or 2 pages in Lakshmikant, it is covered. So after you read all of these, while revising, make a tabular form. So I used to have these wedding cards or some hospital files which are very long in nature. You can refer any files also. So I divided that particular file into different columns and rows, and I covered all constitutional bodies, non-constitutional bodies list. So when I have to revise, I just used to refer to that file. So when it is in tabular form, it becomes very easy for us to revise. So that is how smartly you should convert your bulky things into something very readable. And I do not mean to make Lakshmikant a short notes, okay? Don't make that mistake. Only chapters which are bulky in nature, which require less time for revision, you need to make those into short notes. Remaining, you can cover it in the standard book itself. So after geography, when it comes to economy, I just enrolled for a course for economy. So it was by NEO IAS. It is an online mode. It is Kerala based. So I took a course for this one subject itself, the economy. So I took it on online recorded mode. So I followed their class notes. And additionally, I used to refer one book called Eco 550. So in this book, you have 550 MCQs covering various chapters of economy. So when you are done with particular chapter, you can just solve the questions. And believe me, I solved this book more than 4 times during prelims. So when you start practicing PYQs and MCQs, your brain naturally gets into that prelims mode. That seriousness gradually sets in. So do try, give it try to this book. I used it in online. So Eco 550, the book name was. You can cover a lot of economy, sub-economy topics and concepts through these questions. And for history, I initially followed the old NCERTs. And gradually, there was an opinion and there was a fact in the market that new NCERTs are becoming the trend in the history questions. So many of the questions are being asked from new NCERTs and Tamil Nadu state history books. I did one thing for that. After covering my basics from old NCERTs, I just referred this new NCERTs once, especially class 11 and 12, I guess, for ancient, medieval and modern. After referring these textbooks once, and I just made a short notes, whatever are the important points. So I carefully picked them from the do you know boxes given in these chapters and MCQs given at the end of each chapter. So and also the maps. If there is any map which is covering the key locations of ancient port cities. Port cities is actually favorite theme of UPSC. So when there are such maps, especially regarding port cities, inscriptions, sites, So these maps I used to make on my own in my notes, and I used to refer to them a lot of times. So this will gradually help you in solving those difficult questions in history. And apart from this, I don't recommend to go beyond anything, because history is a subject wherein the return on investment is very less. No matter how much you cover, you will always see some bouncer question in history. It is safe to leave, so than to commit a mistake in prelims. So just cover whatever is important and just go the extra mile in new NCRTs. Once you are done with them and once you make a short note, just leave it. Revise only that particular notes and don't go beyond resources in history. It's not that rewarding in prelims especially. And environment, I followed the PMF IAS book. So once I have read that, I just made short notes for bulky chapters. And for maps especially, I prepared a lot. So the first mistake I committed in my earlier attempt was I was not well prepared with the maps, be it the geography maps or in the environment, the protected areas and all. So I was not very well prepared in the previous attempt. So for this attempt, I made it a point that the map should be before my eyes. When I close my eyes, I should visualize whatever is there on the map. So that kind of spontaneity will help you in prelims in map-based questions. So many people, they commit silly mistakes in map-based questions. You should not commit the same. So when you are practicing a lot, you will naturally know what is the answer for such map questions. Practice the maps. You should practice the rivers, mountains, whatever is covered in geography and the protected areas. And for that, you can make some maps and paste it to the wall. Just visualize it. Just refer it every day. While you are not feeling to study much, just refer to the maps. That will be productive and that actually helps you solve some extra questions in prelims. And for science and tech, I covered the current affairs. So I covered monthly magazines and the PT 365. So whatever is in there, I followed that for science and tech. If time permits, you can just go to ISRO website or NASA website. You can see especially the space related missions, what are upcoming events and what is so path breaking in the current mission. You can just go through the website and make a short note for these details. And yes, apart from these current affairs, I followed a very focused approach, because what happened was in my first attempt, I placed excessive reliance on current affairs. I was reading monthly current affairs, PT 365 a lot of times, but I did not focus much on the static. So that was the point that actually gave me a failure in prelims first attempt. So in the second attempt, I was so clear that whatever are the current affairs beyond these, I will not read. So once you place your resources fixed for current affairs, don't go beyond that. Just revise whatever you have read and place more emphasis on the static subjects. So I call 4 subjects as the pillars for prelims. The first one is polity, second is economy, third is geography plus environment, fourth is history. So whenever you are preparing for prelims, these 4 subjects are the building blocks of your preparation. Go for these first and solve the remaining later, like practice or revise them later. And CSAT, as you know, like it is getting tricky year on year. I do not know how 25 CSAT went, but fairly enough 23 and 24 CSAT was tough, on a tougher side. So no matter which background you are coming from, place due respect for this subject, because there is nothing so worse than missing the prelims by CSAT. So you feel that regret a year long. Place emphasis on CSAT. For that, just go through PYQs. Go through PYQs and start solving questions chapter wise. Like take the chapter number system, then probability, permutation, combination, percentages. And in this way, you can solve math step by step. After going through PYQs, you can give any test or you can solve any other aptitude books, so that you are well accommodated with this math part of CSAT. And for reading comprehension, I just didn't give any test. I followed PYQs completely. Because you see, in reading comprehension, the problem is that no institute is close enough to UPSC style of passages. So that is the only problem. So you can actually go through these reading comprehensions like from 2013 to 24 or 25. Practice them time and again. Understand different traps, like there are some extreme words given in the question and there are some other directive words like inference, what is the corollary. So these are some different directives given in the question. You have to focus on this. And this is for the subject wise preparation, and I'll talk about the PYQ analysis because I think there is some gap in this. Many toppers tell you that PYQs are very important and all of that, but we tend to do it in a wrong way. I did that in my first attempt. We actually solve PYQs, we just refer the answer and then we say that okay, this is done. But that is not the ideal thing. You should go through PYQs first, do not solve them at all. Take one subject, go through the previous year questions and just identify the themes. Which are the themes? The questions are being repetitive in nature year on year. Say for example, if you take ancient history, you see port cities are that important theme. Port cities, travelers notes. So what each traveler was writing about some empire. These kind of questions and questions related to Buddhism, Jainism, coinage. These are some themes in different subjects that you should identify once you are referring to PYQs. You should note them down, which are the themes in each subject. So after you are done with that themes, then go on solving those questions. While solving the questions, also refer to the 4 options. Why is this particular option given for this question? What is so important about it? Just give it a Google search. You will know there is a connection. So that might be in news, that might be holding some key relevance. You will identify that for each of those options. You will get some notes online on Google. Just refer it and you will know just 2-3 lines about that particular option. In this way, you will analyze that there are different hints given in the question paper itself. So you should know that aptitude for solving the prelims PYQs, and you'll also know what kind of questions are being more challenging and tricky. For example, I remember one question in geography that was related to some geomorphological phenomena. And the first statement, you will see that there are a lot of details given. So in Western Pacific Ocean, at this latitude, this particular position. So you see that when there are many details in a statement, there is more chance to commit a mistake there. So if UPSC wants to give a wrong statement, when that is more specific, you can expect if one of the detail is wrong, the statement itself is wrong. So that is the concept here. And in the second statement, you see it is very generalistic in nature. There are no specific details. So it tends to be correct anyway. In this way, when you start analyzing PYQs in the right manner, you will find a lot of traps like this. So you have to understand the traps first so that you will not fall into those traps in the exam. Because what happens is under that 2-hour time pressure, we tend to make mistakes even when we know the right answer. So that is the situation out there in the exam. Hence, we need to be very well prepared during the analysis stage itself. Analyze the mistakes and note them down. These are the traps in geography type questions. In history, these are the common traps. So for each of the subject, maintain a list, do that. This is initially time taking, but it is truly rewarding when you are writing prelims. So maybe if you can go that extra mile, you can safely clear prelims. Like the past year, I did not clear the cutoff. Almost I fell short of 5 to 6 marks in both the papers. And in this year, after all this analysis and practice, I got 30 plus marks above the general cutoff in both papers. So that is what analysis and going the extra mile will give you. So when you are clearing prelims with a lot of margin, you will have that confidence to face mains. So that is my analysis out there in prelims. So till now we have discussed prelims. Like if you have any prelims related doubts, I'll answer them. How many of you have written the prelims this year?
This was going to my 5th attempt.
Okay.
So prelims, then qualifying exam. So CSAT is my problem.
Yes.
Next my 5th attempt.
Okay. So this attempt also you are not very clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one thing is that I believe prelims is that important step. Because in mains you have the luxury of writing your opinions. It is not just right or wrong. Whatever you write, you will get some kind of marks. But in prelims it's not the case. Either it is right or it's wrong. You are in the list or out of the list. So for prelims, I think you are doing somewhere the mistake of identifying topics in different subjects. So when I was preparing for this second attempt, In each of the subject, after PYQ analysis, I have made different priority areas in different subjects. And additionally, for example, if you take polity, Parliament is that important chapter. President and governor, comparison, and center-state relations, fundamental rights, directive principles, okay, fundamental duties. So these are that bulky things that I'll cover first. Whenever I start to read polity, I'll cover these topics first. Once these are done, I'll go to remaining other topics. So what mistake we commit is that we start right from the first chapter. And until we reach the important chapters, we'll already lose the interest in revising that. Because revision is not very interesting. Like even if you are somebody who is giving third or more than 2 attempts at UPSC, revision is that worst thing that we all go through. Because we do not feel interesting at all. We know all the things already. Revision will become boring. So for that, you need to first identify priority topics. Once you are clear with priority topics in each of the subjects, the 4 building blocks that I have said, cover those important topics day by day. Take a schedule. For example, I have dedicated 5 months of preparation for prelims because I was lacking at prelims. But if you are someone who is fairly doing well at prelims, you might not put that much of time. But if you are having problem, do not mind about anybody else's schedule. Just give yourself your personal schedule. Give a 5-month strict schedule wherein you can revise the whole static part 3 or 4 times. So give it a cyclic nature. So in the first phase, cover the static in different subjects, and then in the second phase, third phase, fourth phase. And when you are just before the prelims, almost say 2 weeks or 1 week before the prelims, you will just read that short notes, or you'll refer to maps or something that you are already good enough. Because during those times, it is much about the mind, not about your knowledge or content, but about your mindset. Prelims is not very tough. It's not very easy either. It is somewhere in the middle. So you need to realize that you need to give decent amount of preparation. And once you are done, have belief in yourself. When you are calm and believing in yourself, you will perform much better. That is an important thing that I observed. In the first attempt, I was having confidence, but I was never really 100% believing in myself. But in this attempt, I made myself the main figure in the exam. So it is my thing that I have to perform well. It doesn't matter how much else any other one is preparing or not. So just give yourself that main confidence, that energy, and you will easily clear prelims after doing this kind of analysis. So maybe you have to dedicate a lot of time, and also first analyze where you are going wrong. Which subjects are your weak areas? For example, somebody has that memory that they are very thorough with polity, but somebody might be so struggling in polity. Each one of us have different areas of strengths and weakness. Identify them and work on them. That is truly rewarding than following what everybody else is doing. So do that and you will clear prelims.
What's your approach in solving statement-based questions?
So until 2022, we were all approaching in elimination basis, right? So after 2022, that luxury is gone. We are now left with only statement-based questions in majority of these 100 questions. So for these, you need to be very thorough with PYQ analysis. I didn't do very path-breaking for these questions. Just how I analyzed different teams and worked on priority areas. I just went ahead with different options given, the 4 options. And the intelligent risk that we take in exams, that only worked. There is nothing so special about these. But even your static part is so solid, you can easily do these statement-based questions also. But if it is in current affairs or some random GK question, you can just skip that question. It's not worth taking the risk. So do that. If it is a static question, you have to take the risk. You have to eliminate the options and you have to pick that. For that only you need test series, like test series or PYQs, only for the sake of testing your static solid foundation. Okay. Current affairs, no matter how much you cover, there is always a new question in the paper. So just do the decent current affairs, but put a lot of emphasis on static. When you revise it in 3-4 cycles, you will be very clear with the foundation concepts in different subjects, and it is how you can approach the statement questions also.
Madam, how to analyze for the map planting questions will know how to analyze for the first what we have to learn, next geography or history, something historical places will be there, how to prepare that one.
So there is one opinion in all of us that maps are only for geography. It's not that. In environment also we have maps, in history also we have maps, in modern India also we have some maps. So map pointing is something that will give you extra reward in exam. So give that time. Firstly, when you're starting with maps, start with geography because it is comforting. First, we have different rivers, mountains. Just go through different videos online. In YouTube, you have a lot of educational videos on map pointing, and you can use mnemonics or tricks to remember each of them. And after you are done, just try diagrams with your free hand, because in mains also you are going to draw the diagrams in geography. So try practicing them with your free hand, and whenever you are a lot of vexed with this revision and all stuff, you can just try map pointing freehand. So do that for geography. And in Indian geography there are the lessons, for example the natural vegetation lesson, soil types. So there are different types, right? Dry deciduous and warm deciduous and all of that. You just make a map and just label different areas, and once you label the dry deciduous or thorny, write the characteristic features of that forest. So in one single map, your entire lesson is covered. You need not refer to the NCERT book again. Just make one map after reading twice or thrice, label them and write key features of different forests there, different tree species that we get there, different flora and fauna, and what's the temperature ideally, what is the precipitation. All of this you can label it then and there in one single map and paste it onto your wall or in your book, and so that you can refer it time and again. Because in geography, these kind of questions are being asked in these times. For example, there are a list of different tree species, and they are asking which kind of vegetation these belong to, like which kind of forest areas. These trees we actually observe in lot of numbers. So once you are done with this particular chapter, the soils and natural vegetation, you can deal these questions easily. And do this for geography. Similar is the thing with climate types. We have different climate types covered in GC Leong textbook. Take one map and label them. So in this way you can cover climatic types and all of the geographical features with respect to geography maps. And when it comes to other maps, like we see when there is some country in news, we'll get that question in prelims. What are the bordering countries? What are the different water bodies? And all of this. There are a lot of mnemonic techniques for these. You can try out on them. But be sure about important places in the world map also. For example, the South America. I used to do one thing. When I was in prelims preparation mode, I used to dedicate 15 minutes time each day for map. It is actually relieving because you are not reading here. You're just observing and pointing them out on your map. So I used to give one continent 2-3 days. So first I'll cover the political map of the continent. Secondly, I'll cover the physical features of the map. Where are the plateaus, where are the plains, and water bodies surrounding the continent and different countries. And is there any bay, isthmus, peninsula, especially the islands which are disputed in nature. So all of this I used to cover about that continent in 2-3 days. I used to revise them time and again when I get the free time. So in this way I covered different continents. It is actually interesting. You can try out on this because prelims, I said 5 full months of time is there. You can just give a leisure time to this map, and once you are done with practicing this, you are fairly in a position to answer them right. So this is how geography maps should be done. And when it comes to history especially, you have to identify the themes first. As I said, the PYQ themes. Port cities is an important theme, and in port cities also, which empire's port cities are important. Like, is it the Gupta era or post-Gupta time, Shatavahana, or which time period is important for these map or this port cities. After you analyze them, just go ahead and write them down. Also, if there is any new name given to that old city, just Google it, and if you know the name, write it then and there itself. And there was some question back in 23, I guess, what is Dharani Kota? There is one site called Dharani Kota, and the answer was the Shatavahana Empire, I guess. So this was covered in one new NCERT textbook. The exact thing is given there, the map. So this is the importance of covering maps for different subjects.
Daily routine, how you prepare your day to schedules?
Okay. So are you preparing for the first time, or is it you are giving an attempts in continuation?
This year I gave.
Okay, this year you gave your first one. Okay. So one thing is that when I started the preparation, I was sure about the schedule. Whatever that you are going to do tomorrow, it should be fixed before night. Many times we start ahead with the day and we are in confusion what to do itself. In that confusion itself, your half day is gone. So do that planning before night. Whatever is it less or more, do the planning before night. And I used to give different slots. One slot is for revision of the before day, and if it is not very interesting, you can try out map or some different thing. And apart from that, give some solid slots like 2.5 hour slot. In that I'll cover the GS main subject. So be it polity or economy, if I'm studying for mains, I'll give a dedicated 3-hour slot for polity. In that slot, I'll analyze the PYQs for mains first, then I'll identify the theme areas, and I'll schedule different days for different theme areas. So if I'm going to give some 6 days for polity, completion of polity for mains, I'll first take a day before and schedule all these things, like what are the priority areas in different subjects. Then I'll give it a schedule, like in these 6 days, on each day these concepts are going to be covered. So if you are left with this, like sometimes we do not hit the schedule as much. There are some off days anyways, but try to complete as much as possible. So when you fix these themes and schedule, just when your day is there out there, you just go through the PYQ, select the theme and try to explore different information or different Supreme Court judgments, value addition, whatever it is. Just give it that solid 3 hours for GS subject. If you want to have a break, you will have a break of little 5 minutes or something, but give a solid slot. Do not go here and there between the slots because it will kill your focus. Only when you are exhausted, just give a break of 5 to 10 minutes and then sit back. So one GS slot is done, and then I'll take a break, lunch break maybe, and I'll take a nap also, because you see, when the afternoon hits, our productivity also hits low. Gradually, we are not very interesting in the afternoon. So I just used to have a 30 minutes or 15 minutes nap, and then from 2 to 5 p.m. I used to have a second slot. In this I used to cover optional or something very bulky, or international relations or internal security, because these subjects are interesting in nature. If it is not interesting, you will feel sleepy anyways. There is no use of studying in afternoon. So give some interesting subject in the afternoon times, and then the evening break, and post that I used to have an evening slot of 5 to 7:30 or something. So in that I used to cover essay or some GS subject, because GS is ever ending for mains. I used to again have a GS slot, and post lunch break I used to have a slot for current affairs. I used to make short notes for current affairs, and in between when I was practicing, I used to have a slot for answer writing also. Like I used to skip any of these subjects and place answer writing over there. This was my ideal schedule, and I used to sleep at 10:30 p.m. So by that time, by 10 p.m. I used to make schedule for the next day. So this was how my routine used to be. I did not observe any Sundays, birthdays, festivals, everything, because I felt that I was at home all the time. Every day is Sunday for me, every day is working day for me. Only when I felt exhausting, I took break of 2-3 days in between. So unless there is exhaustion, I did not give myself a lot of breaks, because you see, when you give a lot of breaks, your focus is not as much as before. You will feel lethargic and you will not hit the targets. So just go ahead with this mindset, because this is some serious business. You need to have breaks, yes, they are essential for rejuvenation, but yes, naps when taken in long nature, it will also kill your focus. Just be cautious about this, and this used to be my ideal schedule all through the year.
Ma'am, regarding polity, everyone struggles to remember articles, ma'am. What do you suggest in that, and what trick worked for you to remember all the articles?
Okay, I think there is no shortcut for polity here, because we need to remember a lot of articles. Initially, yes, it was frustrating because we are not from the humanities side. But I used to make one thing, like I used to take an A4 sheet and I used to write all the important constitution articles. And in the, like, not the entire sentence of the article, but the shortcut of it. So I used to cover almost article 1 to almost like 300 plus. So in this way, only important articles I used to write in one A4 sheet, used to highlight it, and then in this way, actually I pasted it to my wall. So I used to refer to it every day. And when we are solving PYQs and tests side by side, we also we'll be in a position to remember all of them. So in this way, I memorized the important constitution articles. I prepared this list for prelims initially, and this helped me a lot during mains. Because in mains, one important thing is that in polity GS2 questions, when you are starting with introduction, you need not write something very path-breaking. You can simply start with constitution article. This article defines this. That is itself enough. So I got good marks in GS2 mainly because I used constitution articles as value addition, and I used a lot of Supreme Court judgments. I used to have 2 A4 sheets full of Supreme Court judgments. So I used to quote them a lot, the constitution articles and Supreme Court judgments. So these became my value addition and fodder for GS2 mains, especially the polity section. In this way, you can also cover the polity section.
Ma'am, any specific answer writing tips for optional and also GS papers?
See, answer writing is the similar thing, but there is some difference in approaching GS and optional. So for GS, I followed the 4-step process. First, I used to refer to the syllabus topics given, and for each of the topics, after understanding the priority areas, always and always I used to read the priority topics first, make the notes for priority topics first. Because you see, when we start from the first thing, we'll waste a lot of time. So directly jump to those priority areas, and I started making decent amount of notes in pointer format, only something that is understood by me. It's not in very detail. So I used to refer some topper notes also for this matter. Just the basic information. What are the positives, negatives of this concept? What is the ideal introduction that I can quote? What is the ideal conclusion that I can quote? So all of these I have written in A4 sheets. And once the decent amount of content is done, I used to brainstorm the PYQs. So there was no writing at all. Just take a PYQ, give yourself 3 minutes of time, and just think of what are the different subparts in the question. This is called structuring. In which manner that you are going to structure the question. So there are critically evaluate, illustrate, elaborate, different directive words given in mains questions. So you will divide those questions into different subparts. So if there is a 10 marker, you can ideally write 2.5 subparts. If there is a 15 marker, you can write 3.5 subparts. So this extra half subpart is a value addition that you are going to make. This will give you an edge. So this second step is structuring. This will become a practice in loop. You have to place PYQs in front of you, give yourself 3-4 minutes of time, and just analyze in mind whatever are the structures, whatever are the subparts that you are going to write. So the third one is the speed. Because we all fail because we are not in a position to complete those 20 questions. It is very challenging, but it is very rewarding because you have to complete all of the 20 questions. There is no luxury in leaving any question. So just you have to complete all 20. For that, I used to make a timer. I used to have a stopwatch for mains. For 7 minutes, the 10 marker, and for 15 marker, the 10 minutes. So in this way, I covered the speed gradually. Initially, I took 15 minutes for 10 marker. Each 10 marker, I took 15 minutes. But gradually, after practice, I was able to finish the paper within 3 hours. And this is speed is the third point, and fourth point is the value addition. This fourth point will make your name be in the list. So the value addition, how much ever that you will do, that will give you a good score in mains. And for value addition, I broadly tell you different concepts. First is for polity, as I said, articles and judgments. These are the value additions, and different reports of institutions like the IMF report, press inequality report or something like that. Different data from government and some private bodies. You can use PRS website for that, and you can have data. And for economy, you will have to have the stats from the budget, economic survey, and different reports from the government websites. And other than that, for history, I did one important thing. I quoted different historians in my introductions. For example, if there is a question related to Chola era architecture or something in GS1, I used to write a historian who quoted about Cholan architecture. So I used to prepare a list for this introduction and conclusion in history also. So, and that is why I also scored decently well in GS1, because the kind of value addition that you will make, it will make the examiner happy. Only when the examiner is happy, you will get a lot of marks, because you understand the pain of examiner to go through lot of papers. What is so special in your paper that he feels happy and gives the marks? So that is your responsibility. The kind of value addition that you will make, that will fetch you a lot of marks. And these are the broad pointers for mains preparation.
So there is a belief that whatever the amendments that are in news, those will be in prelims. If we look this year, we thought so many people that work for amendment will be in the question paper, but it didn't happen. So what do you say, ma'am? It will work for prelims or it will work for mains?
So amendments are that miscellaneous topics in polity. You have to have a list of amendments. You need to cover them, revise them a lot. And regarding to the Waqf bill or the act, even we were expecting that to be done in mains also. Even in mains also, we didn't find the question. We were expecting that in interview also. In interview also, they didn't ask us these questions. So one thing is that there is no concrete yes or no to different current affair topics. It is your responsibility to prepare. Whether it will appear in your exam or not, it is not in our hands. But just go ahead with decent amount of information, not too much, not too less. Just if you take some act or bill going on in the news, read about the context. Why is this act or bill being placed? What are the stakes here? What are the different fundamental rights at stake? And then you have to read the fundamental rights, right to religion. That becomes important here. And then you have to read about secularism. So you see, not just the news, but different background analysis is needed. So when you take some news piece, try to figure out what are the different sub areas of this topic. As I said, from Waqf, we can derive the freedom of religion. So Article 25 say you have to read. And after that, you have to go through Supreme Court judgments related to secularism or something. We have to read the concept of secularism. What is positive secularism? What is negative secularism? What is the Indian model and Western model? So all of this, you have to make a mind map. Whenever you read a news, that is the difference. It is not about mugging up facts and writing it in the exam. It's about the analysis that you will do. That will fetch you the reward. So this is how you have to deal the current affair topics.
Ma'am, how to face an unknown question in mains or optional, ma'am? GS or optional?
So this is a good question, because no matter how much ever we prepare, we will always face some bouncers in mains. For example, in GS1 also, there are questions like twisters in this year. Like in 2024 mains, there was a question called about twisters. So even everybody do not know, like anyone don't know this question. Even I didn't know, but I finished the paper. So it was a 10 marker, I believe. So actually you have to identify something. Like if the question is from geography, there is definitely something going to be about geomorphological phenomena. So you will write about twister. Like a twister is that geomorphological phenomena. It can influence the lives and it can impact the vegetation and all of it. So if you see, this is not wrong. I do not know about twister, but if it's a geography question, all of these factors are going to be in play, right? It is not wrong, it is not right. It is somewhere in the gray. So that is how you will write some different pointers. You can just drag it on, but do not fill the pages too much, because you are not aware of the topic, right? Just play safe in such questions. Write the decent amount of data, general points. Just cover up the papers. Not too much, but just the decent amount. The advantage here is that many of those will leave the question, but you are writing the basic decent points. Even if you get 2-3 marks in that question, you are fair ahead of the competition. So that is the importance of writing bouncer questions. Many people will leave them. So just keep it at the end. If you are not very comfortable initially, try writing the questions that you are comfortable first. And in the end, attempt these kind of questions.
Firstly, congratulations on your huge success, ma'am. Ma'am, actually my question is, IGNOU materials చదవాలంటారు కదా మ్యామ్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీకి, అవి మీరు కవర్ చేశారా? అండ్ దెన్ ఏదైనా టాపర్ కాపీస్ మీరు రిఫర్ చేశారా? ఇన్ నోట్ మేకింగ్ అండ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ పేపర్స్ మీద మనకి అంత ఫోకస్ ఉండదు, అది ఎలా చేయాలి?
So first you asked about IGNOU material. I did not refer IGNOU material, but yes, few topics where the notes is not as much available online, I refer to IGNOU. Only those very 2-3 topics, I guess, which are available online. So it is not important to cover something from end to end. Even for anthropology, if I can say, there are lot many books that we'll cover. It is not important to cover from end to end. Just identify, just take the index and compare it with your syllabus paper of optional. Whatever are the topics, round them off, just complete those topics from that book. Once that is done, go to the next book, do the similar thing. It is not rewarding to complete each book from end to end. So this is how IGNOU material should also be referred. If you are not having something very like a decent amount of data or like notes for some topic, you can refer to that. If you have some decent notes, you need not go through that also. That is one thing. And whatever you asked next,
Topper copies.
okay, so my optional was anthropology, and I referred 2-3 toppers copies. One is Lakshmi Nagappan ma'am, so she scored 320 plus in anthro. I referred to her copies, and then Sri Harsha sir copies, and then Nidhi Pai ma'am copies. So I referred to these 3 topper copies, and I did not take any test series for optional. I just practiced 2 PYQs. Like I took the 2020 paper both in the morning and afternoon, and then I completed them. So this is how I did my optional test, because I practiced a lot for GS. So by that time I was not having enough time to practice for optional. So that due to that time constraint, I did not take any test series for optional. But if you are having some lacuna in your optional answer writing, you can definitely go for a test. One important thing is that do not idealize anybody for taking some test or some course. It is about your needs. If you want to have some deliverables in a course, look out for them, take it. Do not think that if somebody is taking, I should also enroll. It is not like that. If you are having a genuine need, just go for a course. If you are not very comfortable with it, and you need not go for a course, then okay, this is the approach. Language papers. Okay, language paper, there is no much of tension that we need to take. Even I used to have this dilemma that because nobody is teaching us how to approach language papers. We are all having fair idea about GS, optional, everything. And I'll tell you, it is very easy. You can just refer 1 PYQ, like from 24. And just try to read the questions. It is very easy. Many people sleep during the language papers also. They'll complete and they'll sleep. So that is how language papers go. We also prepare optional on these language paper days. They are so basic, you will just easily write it off and you can easily qualify that. Use that additional time for optional preparation, because the next day you will having optional papers. And you will be sorted out for this language papers.
Good morning, ma'am. First, hearty congratulations. మ్యామ్ మనతో మనం ఎలా స్టబోన్గా చాలా స్ట్రిక్ట్గా ఉండాలి మ్యామ్. దెన్ ఇంకొకటి అటెన్షన్ స్పాన్ ఎలా పెంచుకోవాలి మ్యామ్, అదర్ దెన్ మెడిటేషన్ చెప్పండి మ్యామ్.
సో okay, attention span, I'll deal this first. Are you interested in short videos or reels? Avoid them first. Because you see, earlier we used to refer to some long lectures also, 1.5 hour. Now our attention span is limited to 15 seconds. And I see even in those 15 seconds we are dragging that. So that kind of digital age that we are living in, so that is so dangerous for attention. Just try stopping them, at least for your serious preparation days. If you are comfortable after your mains or something, you can go through them. Because you see, this is something that we ignore. We refer to them daily, the short videos and all of this stuff that kills our attention span. So you start reading lengthy things. You start reading topper copies or something very lengthy. Initially do that and you'll get that attention back. And you asked something, okay, being stubborn with the self. See, discipline is very important. If you're not having the discipline, this exam is not for us. So that is as simple as it is. Because you see, there is a lot of things to cover. There is prelims, mains, interview. Even a person, like even if you take about my scenario, even till the day of the interview, I was not sure about many things. Despite putting in lot of efforts for 4 months for interview, I was clueless the before night. So that kind of uncertainty, complexity exists in this exam. For that, you need to be stubborn with yourself. You can do that by scheduling first. So if you are not that person who is very good with schedules, give yourself a flexible one first. So just have 3-4 tasks to do in a single day. Carry on that for a week and then increase the number of tasks. In this way, you will analyze that you are actually good at doing things, but you seriously lack the discipline. And after doing these simple things for a lengthy period, you will inculcate that discipline, and gradually you will become that stubborn lady with yourself, and you will able to write the exam well. Fine. So firstly, you scored 1,111, like 1,111 in ethics, is it? You scored 1,111, right? Okay, that's fairly a good score, but you have that potential to reach 130 plus. So there are a few things that you should keep in mind. You can just sit down. Okay, so firstly, I will tell you about my approach. So there are section A and section B. Which part of the exam that you were writing first? Is it the case studies or the theory? Section A first. Okay.
5 questions for the first 35 minutes, then case study.
Okay, so that is good approach, because you see many aspirants tend to do it the other way around. They'll write the case studies first, and when there is this peak time left, they'll start with this for question number 1, and you see examiner will correct your paper from page 1. So when you are writing the first question at the end, imagine the kind of handwriting, the kind of the content that you are writing at the end. So that is seriously compromising your image in the examiner's mind. So don't make that mistake. Give yourself good time to write the theory questions first. So for theory questions, yes, that BNS question was a bouncer the last year. I did not know what exactly I have written that day. But yes, you need to add a lot of philosophical touch to these ethics answers. And I used to have this moral thinkers and philosophers list. And I used to quote them time and again in every other question. Like you said, one question is about what was justice yesterday, what is not today. So think it of like this. If I tell about the practice of sati, it was back then a prominent practice. So that was actually designed in such a way that when a young girl becomes a widow and there is this society which is so not very safe for her, people believed that if she is no more there, there is no threat to her security. So that was their mindset, and it was justice in those days. But after Sir Rajaram Mohan Roy came in, so we had the different dimension of justice. If you are not able to create a safe society for her, you are compromising her dignity of life. It is not justice. So this is what the new dimension of justice came in. You have to analyze such examples from history or some current events. And for example, you can take similar thing, homosexuality. It was back then considered a sin. It's not justice. But now, today we progressed. We are thinking it on liberal lines. So these are certain kind of examples you have to quote. Examples, I had literally 2-3 pages full of examples for ethics. So I used to have this current affair important events. All of these I used to make different tabular forms, and I used to fill examples. I used to revise them time and again. As and when chance like this appears in exam, you have to hit your examples. So in these questions, you will get those extra marks. And you asked about case studies next. So for case studies, the different approach that I did was, I used to make templates for different kind of case studies. So for example, there is something about emotional intelligence, whatever are the introductions, conclusions, points that I'm going to write. There is a prefixed template for me beforehand. So whatever is the case study given in the exam, I'll just dump the facts into them. And if you are writing about disaster management, for example, you have to quote the NDMA guidelines. It is sure. Because how much ever technical details that you fill in, that will reflect your capacity as a civil servant. So this paper gives you that luxury of writing many things. And apart from these guidelines and statutory things, you can also write moral thinkers and philosophers. For example, if there is something about justice, you can quote the 4 virtues of Plato. Then Wheel of Ignorance, John Rawls, Justice. And there are a lot of thinkers you can easily quote. And if there is something that is compromising your integrity, you can write the leadership skills. Like you can write being in a responsible position compromising my integrity will not be a backlash for myself, but it will also destroy the work culture of the organization. So here you are not thinking about your own self, but how this institution is functioning as a whole. You are thinking about it also. This reflects your broad mindset. So this is how you need to make minor changes in your approach, and you can surely get a 130 plus in this paper.
How many points per question in section A?
Section A. So first, dimensions, like different subparts of question. Under each subpart I used to write 3 or 4 points, and under each of the point there is an example for sure. In ethics you have to write a lot many examples, keywords, prepare example list, keyword list, diagrams specifically, because ethics is a lengthy paper. Imagine the pain of the examiner also. Sometimes we are writing a lot, they have to read 50 plus pages for each paper. If there is something in diagram, it will show a lot of information in an easy manner. So do that for ethics.
నాకు ఒక డౌట్ మేడం, ఏంటంటే క్లాస్ మనం కోచింగ్ తీసుకున్నప్పుడు వాళ్ళు నోట్స్ చెప్తారు కదా మేడం. ఎగ్జాంపుల్ జాగ్రఫీ వచ్చి 1 monthలో కంప్లీట్ చేసేసారు అనుకోండి మేడం, కానీ నేను టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ చదువుతాను మేడం, జీసీలియం అండ్ దాంతోపాటు ఎన్సీఆర్టీస్ కూడా చదువుతాను మేడం. ఎందుకంటే నాకు వీళ్ళు చెప్పేటప్పుడు ఇమాజినేషన్ సరిగ్గా రావడం లేదు మేడం. కొంచెం క్లియర్ పిక్చర్ కోసం నేను ఎన్సీఆర్టీస్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ కూడా చదువుతాను మేడం. ఇలా చదవడం వల్ల వాళ్ళు 1 monthలో చెప్పింది నాకు కంప్లీట్ చేయడం కోసం ఒక 2 months, 2.5 months ఆర్ 3 months కూడా పడుతుంది మేడం. అంటే ఇలా చేయడం కరెక్టేనా మేడం? ఎందుకంటే నాకు టైం, ఎందుకంటే వీళ్ళు ఎవ్రీ వీక్ ఎగ్జామ్ పెడతారు మేడం. ఎగ్జామ్ పెట్టినప్పుడు వాళ్ళు జియోమార్ఫాలజీ మొత్తం 1 weekలో చెప్పేసి నేను ఆ 1 weekలోనే దాన్ని కంప్లీట్ చేయలేకపోతున్నాను మేడం. ఇంకొక 1 or 2 weeks నాకు ఎక్స్ట్రా పడుతుంది మేడం. సో అప్పుడు ఎగ్జామ్ రాసేటప్పుడు నాకు కొంచెం తక్కువ మార్కులు వస్తాయి మేడం. సో నేను ఎగ్జామ్ రాయడమే మానేశాను మేడం. ఎందుకంటే అనవసరంగా నేను నెగిటివ్ ఇంప్రెషన్లోకి వెళ్ళిపోతాను. మనం ఫస్ట్ సిలబస్ కంప్లీట్ చేద్దాం అన్న ఒక మైండ్ సెట్తో కొంచెం అలా ఉన్నాను మేడం. నేను ఈ సిచ్యువేషన్లో టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ చదవడం అవసరమా, అవసరం లేదా? జస్ట్ మనం నోట్స్ మాత్రం చదివేసి మెయిన్స్లో అప్లై కావచ్చా అనేసి నా డౌట్స్ మేడం. జస్ట్ 4 months బ్యాకే నేను కోచింగ్లో జాయిన్ అయ్యాను మేడం.
ఓకే, అంటే ప్రిలిమ్స్ రాసారా ఇయర్?
లేదు మేడం.
Okay, you are writing 26.
Yeah, man.
Okay. We rely a lot on easily available material. ఏదైనా ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ మెటీరియల్ ఆర్ రెడీలీ ఉంటే ఇది చదివితే అయిపోద్ది అనుకుంటాము. దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ రియలీ గుడ్ అప్రోచ్. ఫస్ట్ మన ఫౌండేషన్ స్ట్రాంగ్ ఉండాలి. యూ సీ స్టేట్మెంట్ టైప్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఎట్లా సాల్వ్ చేస్తాము స్టాటిక్ స్ట్రాంగ్ లేకపోతే? సో ఫస్ట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు కంప్లీట్ యువర్ బేసిక్స్. డజంట్ మ్యాటర్, జాగ్రఫీకి టైం పడుతుంది, బట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ వర్త్ రివార్డింగ్. నువ్వు ఎక్కువ టైం పెట్టి కాన్సెప్ట్ స్ట్రాంగ్ చేసుకుంటే యూ డోంట్ నీడ్ ఫౌండేషన్. లైక్ యూ కెన్ రైట్ ఎగ్జామ్ ఇయర్ అండ్ ఇయర్. నీకు ఫౌండేషన్ స్ట్రాంగ్ ఉంటే క్వశ్చన్స్ ఈజీలీ అటెంప్ట్ చేయొచ్చు, ప్రిలిమ్స్ క్వాలిఫై అవ్వచ్చు. అండ్ టెస్ట్ మాత్రము యూ కెన్ కీప్ ఆన్ రైటింగ్, బికాజ్ అంతా అయిపోయాక రాస్తాము అనుకుంటాము, బట్ దెర్ ఈస్ నో సింగిల్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఇన్ దిస్ ఎగ్జామ్ ప్రాసెస్ వేర్ యూ ఫీల్ యాజ్ పర్ఫెక్ట్. For mains, for interview, whichever phase it is, you are never perfect, and perfection doesn't exist in life also. ఏదో ఒక ఫ్లా ఉంటూనే ఉంటుంది ఎప్పుడు. బట్ ఇదంతా అయిపోయాక చేస్తా అనుకుంటే యూ విల్ మిస్ అ లాట్ ఆఫ్ టైం. సో ఇనీషియలీ టెస్ట్ ఇవ్వాలి అండ్ దాన్ని పాజిటివ్గా తీసుకోవాలి. ఈవెన్ ప్రిలిమ్స్ అప్పుడు టెస్ట్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు కూడా యూ హ్యావ్ టు టేక్ ఇట్ ఇన్ అ పాజిటివ్ మేనర్. మార్క్స్ తక్కువ వచ్చాయని యూ షుడ్ నాట్ ఫీల్ లో. యూ షుడ్ ఫీల్ లో వెన్ యూ ఆర్ ticking one simple question wrong. You should feel low then. Okay, so that should be the approach. Okay. So standard books, I referred PNAD for physical anthro, so tribal anthro Nadeem Hasnain, and all of the static books. But one important thing was that I covered Ember and Ember. So first prelims అయిపోయాక I had a lot of time, prelims failure tarvata, so I completed this Ember and Ember. ఓన్లీ స్పెసిఫిక్గా మనకి చాప్టర్ సిలబస్లో ఏవి ఉన్నాయో ఆ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ అవి కవర్ చేశాను. సో దెన్ ఐ అండర్స్టూడ్ దట్ వీఆర్ సమ్వేర్ మిస్సింగ్ ద ఎసెన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద సబ్జెక్ట్. సో కోర్స్ తీసుకున్నామా, సెల్ఫ్గా ప్రిపేర్ అయ్యామా, బట్ వీఆర్ రీడింగ్ ఇట్ మెకానికలీ. బట్ ఎవ్రీ సబ్జెక్ట్కి ఒక ఎసెన్స్ ఉంటుంది. సో దాట్ యూ విల్ గెట్ త్రూ స్టాండర్డ్ బుక్స్. స్టాండర్డ్ బుక్స్ ఖచ్చితంగా యూ హ్యావ్ టు రీడ్. ఒక అనాలిసిస్ అర్థం అవుతుంది. అండ్ ఆల్సో మనకి ఎంబర్లో సో మెనీ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఉన్నాయి. డిఫరెంట్ ఆర్కియాలజిస్ట్ వర్క్ కూడా ఇచ్చారు మనకి బాక్సెస్లో. అవన్నీ షీట్స్లో చేసుకొని వీ కెన్ మేక్ వాల్యూ ఎడిషన్ ఇన్ ఆన్సర్స్. సో అలా ఆంథ్రో చేశాను. అండ్ ఆల్సో దెర్ ఈస్ అ లాట్ టు రీడ్ ఇన్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ అండ్ మనకి అన్నీ కూడా గుర్తుండవు లాట్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్స్. సో నేనేం చేశానంటే ఐ యూస్ టు మేక్ షార్ట్ నోట్స్, డయాగ్రామ్స్కి ఒక సపరేట్ లిస్ట్. సో ఆర్కియాలజీ అండ్ దెన్ అదర్ సోషియో కల్చరల్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ అన్ని సబ్జెక్ట్స్లో, అన్ని సబ్ పార్ట్స్లో ఐ యూస్ టు హ్యావ్ డిఫరెంట్ డయాగ్రామ్స్ లిస్ట్. సో ఈ డయాగ్రామ్ లిస్ట్ ఐ యూస్ టు ప్రాక్టీస్. అండ్ ఆల్సో షార్ట్ నోట్స్. నేను ఫస్ట్లీ ఐ మేడ్ బల్కీ నోట్స్ ఆఫ్ 4-5 books. సో తర్వాత మెయిన్స్ ప్రిపరేషన్ ఫేజ్లో రివిజన్ చేసి, యాక్టివ్ రికాల్ చేసి నాకు గుర్తున్న తర్వాత నేను గుర్తున్నవి షార్ట్ నోట్స్ చేసుకున్నా. ఇట్లా నేను ఆల్ ఆఫ్ ద చాప్టర్స్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్ కూడా చేసుకున్నా. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మనకి సెకండ్ పేపర్లో కాన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ సేఫ్ గార్డ్స్ ఫర్ బ్యాక్వర్డ్ క్లాసెస్ ఉంది. సో దానికి ఫస్ట్ ఇంట్రో ఇలా రాస్తాను, దెన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ సేఫ్ గార్డ్స్, పొలిటికల్, ఎకనామికల్, సోషల్, ఇట్లా డిఫరెంట్ సపార్ట్స్ చేసుకొని దెన్ లాస్ట్లో మన కమిటీ రికమెండేషన్స్, దెన్ కంక్లూషన్. సో ఇట్లా స్ట్రక్చర్ అన్నది ప్రీఫిక్స్డ్గా పెట్టుకునేదాన్ని. యాక్చువల్లీ ఆ స్ట్రక్చర్తోనే నేను ఎగ్జామ్లో రాస్తాను. అండ్ ఈ షార్ట్ నోట్స్ కూడా మనకి మెయిన్స్ రాసేటప్పుడు విల్ గెట్ 5 days గ్యాప్ ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ జిఎస్ పేపర్స్ అండ్ ఆప్షనల్. సో ఈ 5 days గ్యాప్లో విల్ నాట్ హ్యావ్ మచ్ టైమ్ టు రివైజ్. షార్ట్ నోట్స్ అప్పుడు హెల్ప్ అవుతుంది. సో ఇట్లా ఆప్షనల్ని బ్రేక్ డౌన్ చేసుకోవాలి డిఫరెంట్ పార్ట్స్.
Is it better to take daily answer writing or is it better to take weekly tests?
ఓకే, సో ఇనీషియలీ ఒకవేళ మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేస్తున్నారు ఇప్పుడే ఆన్సర్ రైటింగ్ అంటే ఇట్ ఈస్ బెటర్ టు టేక్ ఆన్ అ డైలీ బేసిస్. బట్ ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ సంబడీ యూ ఈస్ కంఫర్టబుల్ విత్ ఆన్సర్ రైటింగ్, యూ కెన్ టేక్ వీక్లీ టెస్ట్ బికాస్ దట్ విల్ బీ టైమ్ సేవింగ్ అండ్ enriching for you. So take it every day, but take it like 15 or 20 minutes for one simple topic. And do active recall and whatever value addition and all of that. Schedule your this time frame like 70 or 80 odd days, leaving aside the 1 week before mains. Schedule the remaining days. Make sure that every GS paper is covered and you have the time for revision also. So in that way, divide your days and then you can cover revision very frequently, like once in 3-4 days. Not after a week, because you will have barely 5-6 weeks in this entire thing. So you can have revision for every 3 days and give very less time for revision initially. But as and when you are finishing the subjects, give lot of time for revision and less time for value addition. So this is how you can proceed. So I'll answer from the last question. So you asked about the motto. So I'll always used to have this motto of public service in my mind. And you see, even this motivation, though it might be a novel one, it will not help you year long. Some days we feel very high, some days we feel very low. And discipline and consistent routine is something that will sail you along in this journey, because motivation is not something very revolutionary. Yes, it is important to start, but playing it consistently requires a lot of discipline. So I used to have that discipline in mind because my stakes were high. Because I didn't take up a career after graduation. I jumped into preparation right away. So there is some kind of pressure internally, though there was no pressure from family or something, but there was pressure internally because stakes are high. If you do not go like clear this exam, what is your way ahead in life? That is something that was always in my hand. And in hindsight, I also feel that pressure is important. Like if you have no pressure inside you, you will feel chill and you will just go through it. You will say that I'll just face one attempt and I'll know, then I'll fall down, I'll give second, third. This is not like that. Just give serious attempt. Be very serious with your preparation, because there should not be any other important thing that will kill your time at this moment. Give lot of time to your prep and also give time with yourself. Have that hobby or leisure time and explore some different interests, but make sure that it will not divert your time from exam. And for prelims and mains especially, as I said, analysis played a key part in my success. Whatever is the stage of exam, I used to place high emphasis on analysis. First, I used to take 3-4 days before starting with the prep. I used to analyze what are the important areas that I'm going to work upon in the next few days. And I used to make a schedule. Yes, there were some days when I was not hitting the schedule right, but on a whole, I covered 80 to 90% of my schedule. So this was something that I'll give much credit to. You should have a decent schedule that fits your needs and exam needs.